Madam Mayor, it's 6:16 and we're live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Thursday, February 7th, City Commission work session to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triolo.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andy Amoroso.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Maxwell.
Here.
Commissioner Omari Hardy.
Here.
Commissioner Herman Robinson.
Here.
If everyone would please rise for the pledge, led by Vice Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
being as there are many people here for the pool issue, is it okay if we reorder so that the pool comes first and education comes second in this meeting? At least just in this meeting. You can't. Okay. So I'm so sorry. That's not to say that education comes second anywhere else, but in a meeting in Lake Worth about the pool.
No, that's fine by me. And also, I wanted to mention that I mentioned in our commission meeting on Tuesday night that we are taking comments at tonight's workshop. So we have the authority to do or not do them. So if you would like to put in your cards, feel free to do so. Just keep it, because there's a lot of people, just try to keep it as down to a minimum. If someone's already said what you're going to say, take as little time as you can, just so that everyone gets a chance to speak.
Are we reordering the agenda then?
I'm gonna ask I'll ask if there's a consensus to reorder the agenda.
I would only like to say that I think with the citizens that are here, I would like to keep the agenda as is because education is actually very important.
And get it over with.
And
Right in the chamber.
depending on how long Commissioner Maxwell has brought this up on the agenda, if this is going to be a long meeting of education, I just think that education is that important that
Okay.
having people here to hear about education is an opportunity.
Duly noted.
I'll withdraw my request.
Okay. All right, then let's continue on. Again, I want to just remind, you know what, can I have one of those blue cards, please?
Yes, you may, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I see a lot of faces that I don't normally see at the meetings, so I just want to kind of state the rules here. I want basically to be able to give everyone as much of a chance as we can to have their say and to talk. So I'd ask that you be respectful of one another. There's no yelling in the chambers. There's no conversations back and forth with us. When you come up and speak, we will not be answering you when you come up and present your item. It's not a conversation back and forth. You'll just be coming up and making your statement, okay? The limit to address the commission on any agenda item is 2 minutes. The time limit to address the commission, let's see, the timer clock will be installed. She's the lady with the timer clock. So when you hear that buzz, a lot of times when you're talking, I know you're nervous, so you don't actually hear that when it goes off. And then I start to say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I don't want you to think I'm rude. We used to have a big hook like they had in the old play days, but we're not allowed to use that anymore. So just know that that's, I don't want to be disrespectful, but that's the amount of time that we have so everyone can talk. No inappropriate outbursts or interruptions from the public will be tolerated at all. We've got our Sergeant of Arms here. If anyone gets and disturbs the proceedings of this evening, they will be asked. You will be warned once. You will be warned twice. And then on the third strike, you'll be asked to leave. And if you choose not to leave on your own, you will be escorted out. I hope we don't have to get to that, okay? I'm just trying to think of what else could happen. So again, we won't be going back and forth. There won't be a lot of talking. I'd ask for your quiet too, and no booing. If you want a quick applause to support something is really good, but booing's really bad. It just makes people feel bad, and everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. Free speech, right? Yay. We follow adherence to Robert's rules, even though it is a workshop. So you'll see the parliamentary procedure happen up in here. Sometimes correct, sometimes not. We'll do our best to make sure, again, we do it for fairness. We cannot address nor answer any questions directly to the speaker. I mentioned that. Email sent to staff is not accepted unless you've sent it to a direct commissioner and asked them to read it for you. If you're not here or present, you cannot speak. At the sole discretion of the commission, we'll be able to read those cards. Comment cards submitted in bulk will not be accepted or acknowledged. Comment cards submitted to staff on behalf of absent individuals will not be. And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Should we turn our phones off?
Everyone should turn their phones off. And again, no talking out in the meetings. Thank you. Mr. Vivian, love you, but
Zip it.
thanks. Okay, let's get started. The first item is item A, education issues.
Madam Mayor and Commission, staff was asked to bring back on workshop the general topic of education, as it's been an ongoing conversation among the commission at previous workshops and individual items that have been brought forward by commissioners. I know that some of you have had some meetings or activities where you've researched for some information. We were asked to bring back this opportunity for y'all to have that discussion in public and to provide if there's any further direction to staff. I know that there were some conversations potentially about items that may affect the upcoming budget cycle. Those types of items I would also be interested in hearing as we could start to attach potentially what dollar impacts that would look like and how it would fit into the budget process. So that's what we were told to do, and here we are.
Okay, we had our Mayor's Education Council, for those of you not aware of it. I would like to use my mayor's prerogative to invite Erica Whitfield up, if I could. What we had asked, and she presented before us at the Mayor's Education Council, would be, if an ask was asked of us to help in regards to education, what would be some of the top things that we could do to help within the community? And there was a resounding number one, which I don't know if she wants to save that for last or first, but what your top recommendation was, or go through them. I appreciate your being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here. I apologize to everyone for wanting education to be first. But thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Erica Whitfield. I'm on your school board. One of the things that I have really tried to work on in these last 4 years on the school board is really trying to improve education in Lake Worth. I think, knowing that all of our schools are C schools right now, I feel like there's so much more that can be done. We know our children have a lot more capacity than currently we're seeing. So I know that with more things being done, I'm reaching out to the city because I think a partnership is appropriate. So we went through and actually just got myself appointed to the Early Learning Coalition on that board. So I'm pretty proud of that and excited because they have really jumped in with both feet to the education in Lake Worth and trying to see how they can improve it. So two things really rose to the top of all the things we talked about. And you remember from the meeting we had before, we discussed the ideas around VPK, so the voluntary pre-K, which is education for our 4-year-olds, trying to get them in classes so that they can learn before they get to kindergarten, so they're really ready for kindergarten. And then the second thing that we thought would be really a very good idea was to have an education liaison, a person who we would see that would be in the partnership between the city and the school district so that we could do the best job we possibly could to align our services and fill in gaps as they were needed. That city liaison person, I think, to me is the highest priority because I think that all other things could come underneath that. Having a person to go back and forth and really to fundraise in the community, to try to put together some of these workshops and things that we need and really work with our principals to help them with what they need, I think would be such a wonderful thing. The other thing I wanted to share with you as far as the VPK program is that we are moving forward with the Early Learning Coalition kind of at breakneck speed right now. What we've been trying to do is see if we can fundraise in the community to do some of that work, and it's been pretty successful so far. We haven't got any firm answers yet, but we have a lot of potential out there for raising money from the community. So in my vision, I think what would be great is to have the city fund the liaison position, and then from all these other community partners work on VPK. So the things that we would do with VPK right now, what we're thinking, and this is the other part of it, would be to have somebody. Well, there's a couple of things that we want to do, but to create a collaborative among our pre-K providers. So a group, this has actually just been done in Riviera Beach. They raised about $150,000 from the legislature. And they were able to actually put in some curriculum called Frog Street that has been very well received by the providers, both public and private. And I would like to see that done here. The thing that Early Learning said they've learned from the Pre-K Collaborative up in Riviera Beach that they'd like to change for us is to do more work on getting parent involvement. And that's such an important thing, is having the parents feel empowered in their children's education. So what we would want to do, hopefully, is to really get those parents involved, create this collaborative, bring the city involved in the collaborative. We'll have the school district there, any licensing boards that are involved, Early Learning Coalition, any of the funders that we could get, and everybody come together to see how we can improve voluntary pre-K here in the city. There's a couple of issues. The first is just really quality, so raising that quality. Early Learning Coalition has already committed to doing the work. CSC is probably going to be getting involved too, to make sure that there's enough support there to help. And then what we would do with those additional funders is pay for that curriculum, and then pay for hopefully fixing up some of the rooms that the children are currently in. So some of them are not quite right environmentally, and they don't have the right materials, the right structures, infrastructure pieces, fixing some of the, making sure they have like even some technology issues that we don't have right now for them. So that would be part of it, to work on that. I have to say, it's really going very well. I'm very excited about that. The other thing that we have talked about a little bit through well, I'm going to mention two things. One of the other things that we talked a little bit about was funding scholarships for children to make sure they can stay a full day in BPK. Those are fairly expensive. Cost about $4,500 a child. Currently, it's open enrollment time for Early Learning Coalition, and they just got a huge grant from, I just met with them this morning, they just got a huge grant from the federal government, and they are up to about $8 million they have to spend on that, which is more than we've ever had in the past. So it's going to take a while to pass all that out to the community. So I think we can put a pause on that for us right now, asking for that money, because they do have it available. It is something we could consider in the future as funding runs out. But if you know anybody who's trying to get their child not only in VPK, but in a full day of VPK, now's the time to go sign up, because they have quite a bit of money ready to pass out to the providers. So I think that's something, when we can create more spaces and higher quality spaces, we can put those children in and really get them educated and ready for kindergarten. The other thing I wanted to mention really quickly is, and actually I know Commissioner Hardy was mentioning this earlier, we talked a lot about arts and trying to figure out how we could do some more arts. I think having an artist in residence program would be awesome to tie into the themes behind what the city is really focused on. Last night at our board meeting, we talked about the boundary changes with Highland and South Grade, because they are overcrowded. We'll be moving some of the children over to Barton. Not right away, it's, kind of playing out. But I was saying that we are going to be looking at putting a dual language program at Barton. The other thing I asked for was an arts program at Barton to really kind of incentivize the families that are in that area to go, and then, hopefully make the parents really excited about the new school that they're going to be attending. So that's it.
Excellent,
Thoughts?
thank you. Commissioner Robinson,
I'm sorry?
did you have something? I'm trying to think.
Well, just quickly, this is a workshop, and I would like us to have a consensus that we want to emphasize education and want to make a commitment to helping every child in the city through Wellington's program of investing in their schools. I would like to challenge us to come close to the same percentage of their budget to schools as they do. I want to bring it down to the principal-parent relationship to each school. The liaison has been mentioned. I know you were working with your group, and that's a focus, and I think we're ready to do that. If it's in the line item budget of the city, if we had increased if all our schools were B rated, it would help our economic engine tremendously. If they were A rated, we would be looking at a whole different set of circumstances with the budget. You mentioned room repair, that's already in your penny sales tax improvements, so we're just
Well,
talking about programs.
That
really.
would be in the private provider spaces.
Okay.
We would take care of ours
So-
in our buildings.
Just quickly, I just wanted to see that we could get a consensus to support education.
I think that, I know myself, I think what we've said before, we definitely have a consensus to support education. One of the goals is that, I've identified through the Mayor's Education Council is that, I'm here, I've got 3 jobs and whatever else too, but there's needs to be someone dedicated to provide that kind of liaison to our schools. We can get involved through our community organizations and neighborhood associations and, nonprofits and whatever else that we have, but there needs to be someone in the city accountable for it. When we talk about improving our city, if we're not improving our schools, and it's so different for me growing up in the Northeast where the city actually had something to do with the education system, and here we have an independent school board through the county that makes those decisions, but we have to stand up. These are our kids that are going to these schools. These are our children that are, that we're making sure that we have teachers and good teachers in place to help our kids through these programs. And we have more challenges than a lot of other schools. So somebody who can be an education coordinator, someone that has an education background, someone that knows how to be a good communicator, someone that can stand up for us at the county level, someone that can stand next to the educators who can coordinate programs with our library and with other things that has the ability to work and do great things in the city is necessary, not only for literacy, but for the future of our families in this community. So I think that, we've had consensus before to support this, but now it's about putting dollars up to actually support an education coordinator. I thought, when we brought this to this educators, I thought the first thing on their list was going to be give us money. I really did. When they said, no, we support an education coordinator. I mean, that was very practical, but it's also exactly what we need. I see other cities, they have them, they do this, and the steps and bounds that they're making in literacy and childhood education is incredible, and we should be on par with them. So I ask for your opinions on that. To at least at minimum support a education coordinator.
Well, there's different ways to have we talked about different methods of education coordination. And since it's going to be our money, we're going to be more, certainly don't want to give it to the school board.
I think you should keep it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we will have involvement in how it's spent and what this coordinator is going to do.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, so you like the idea of a coordinator?
It'll be a discussion at
I would
another
love it
time,
if you
once
would
we
discuss it.
decide.
Beautiful. Vice Mayor?
I didn't have my light on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Brady?
Quick question. The $4,500 for the VPK scholarship, is that the difference between the
For a
3 and
year.
the 6 hours or the 6 months and the full year?
Yeah, it's for approximately for a year. That's like the general amount of money we worked out that it would cost beyond the 3 hours that is paid for. Some of our private providers figure out a way to do it for much less, but that would be the sum for a year for one child,
Okay.
approximately.
Do you know, so we know what the wait list is for VPK in our area. But we don't know, or do we know, the percentage of VPK eligible children that are actually applying to these VPK programs or, trying to get in the door?
So there's 2 things. One, with that additional money, that is the $8 million, the wait list should be taken care of now. But one of the issues that we've had in the past is really not many kids were going to
Precisely.
VPK. And one of the reasons that I believe is a limitation, and some people have said, is because the parents have a very difficult time dropping children off from just 9 to 12. And so it can be just a burden on them. So what they'll have to do is find someone to watch their child, but they need to watch them all day so they can go to work. So the idea of being able to get them off this wait list and be able to get them in VPK for a full day is just much more practical for families.
So are you saying that more kids who are eligible for VPK will be trying to get into VPK.
Well, I
if
hope
we can,
so.
if we can increase the hours and basically, like the coverage.
Yeah, so we have the money available right now, but what we need is we need every child in the community to want to go to VPK. And I
Right.
think one of the other limitations that we have is quality. When I had my daughter in school, I actually sent her to a VPK in West Palm
Right.
because it was really great. And it was actually also took VPK dollars, so it was great and also saved me some money. And then I paid the difference. But any family who is in need in our community can sign up for the difference to have the full day. And then the VPK part is actually a state-funded program that doesn't have an end to that bucket. So we can continue to pull from that at any point. So really what we need now is high-quality VPK in the community or pre-K in the community. I'd like to see it also be for our 3-year-olds to participate in a program. But what we need is high quality so that the families believe that it's a good place to go. And then when they go there, they walk out having enough knowledge so that they can be successful in kindergarten. Because one of the things that's a real issue is that when a child's not ready for kindergarten, they never really catch up. So
Right.
they start behind and they stay behind. And we can try really hard, but it's very difficult.
So my next question would be, on the quality front, you talked about you didn't use the word Common Core, but you basically said having a curriculum for all the VPK providers, for example, up in Riviera Beach. That's it's a common curriculum to all of them that would ensure that there's a level of quality at all of them, right? And Riviera Beach got a $150,000 appropriation from the legislature. Okay. Now we haven't submitted our appropriation request to this legislature, have we? For this session?
We actually had a presentation by the lobbyist.
But did we actually vote to, I mean, I just remember us having a presentation and we reviewed documents, but I don't know if we
I'd have to
voted.
go back and look and see if there was but there's a general consensus that we were proceeding with 2 budget requests, which weren't related to education.
Right, okay. Now, we did not, at that time, I don't believe we were privy to this, not all of us were. And so I would like us to, if it's not too late, consider an additional legislative appropriation request. Rather not an additional, but consider replacing some of the ones that we have with this. I think this is paramount relative to what we saw on that evening. I don't know if it's too late. The legislature hasn't met yet. They won't meet again until, I don't think, March. I mean, there may be a committee week or something like that in between. But I think this is probably the most important thing we could request from the legislature. And
just so
it's
you
a
know,
one-time shot, correct?
Riviera is asking again. The Riviera Beach Collaborative, not the city, and Senator Bobby Powell is heading it up. So they're asking for the same amount of money again through the collaborative, through Senator Bobby Powell.
So the chances of that money coming to 2
Places
areas in Palm Beach County are,
Unlikely.
well,
But we have some other options, local funding that I've been really delving into. So I think we can do good things. I really do. The vision I have for this is to have if we had the city's support behind it, I think I'll be able to pull in the rest of the funders. And I think it's going to be a really successful partnership. We're going to go forward with this collaborative at any rate, because I think it's really something that will improve education in Lake Worth. I think it's going to improve our readiness for kindergarten, and we owe that to our principals to give them the most ready children we can give them so they can continue to do the great work that they're doing, but have even more success with it. I think it's going to be a very successful thing. But my vision is to have all of the partners at the table for this collaborative. And then also, if we have this educational liaison, have them work on the VPK work, but also work with our principals to help supplement issues that occur at the schools. And then, as you know, we did come up with a bunch of other things that could help our schools out that are very low cost, like attendance incentives, having the commission come and recognize kids when they do a really good job, they're most improved. We talked about even one of my favorite ones that one of our principals suggested was Uber rides for parents to attend events and conferences, because parents sometimes want to come but they can't get there. And then there's been some really good stuff, but like funds to purchase uniforms, undergarments, toiletries, academic achievement celebrations, being able to let our children go on field trips because some of them don't have funding to be able to pull that off. And then even after school tutoring programs. So I think there's a lot of small ticket items that we could do some really good with. Just having an education liaison that could possibly go around and fundraise for those small things. And if there was a small budget from the city, I think in addition to that salary, it would go a long way.
I like all of that. My concern is that our concern is partly, obviously, not partly, but obviously the kids, right? The other concern from the city's standpoint as an institution is there are folks here who won't choose us because of this ridiculous school grading system that we have as far as buying a home here and doing things like that. And so I just want to be able to draw a straight line from the money that we spend to a B and an A, right?
Yeah.
That is extremely important to me because that changes the perception of the community. Like the fact that the schools are, according to the state, C schools is a sort of redlining of the city. And I want to see that changed. And if the state won't change it, then we have to game the system the way that everyone else does, unfortunately. So, all right, thank you.
Quiet in the chambers, please.
Well, I hope to share data, so I think that that's one way we can prove that.
Quiet in the chambers, please. Vice Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Thank you, Erica, for coming out again tonight. Each time we've had these workshops, one of the first things I say is nobody can say no to a child. Okay? And that's, I think we need to set the tone right there. None of us up here or the group here wants to not help in some way that we can. But you've heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it again. When I think about the role that the school board plays and their responsibility to educate our children, and I look around and I see the disparity in the schools throughout the county, I have to ask myself why. Why is there a disparity? What has the school board done or failed to do that's allowed a disparity to occur? Now, I just read an article a day or so ago in Palm Beach County schools, I guess, in terms of large urban schools in the state of Florida, are, I guess, at the top of the heap,
We are.
okay? But there's still a lot of schools that are very, very, or they're at the bottom of the heap within our own district. Lake Worth happens to be one of those. I, for the life of me, cannot understand, going back to my original statement, how that disparity could have ever come about. And I think about your organization and I think about your budget, a $3 billion annual budget stacked up against our measly $34 million budget. And I ask myself, whatever dollar value we contribute, if we choose to contribute, is it going to be enough to draw the straight line that Commissioner Hardy just mentioned between our contribution and moving these schools to an A or B status? And I think we need to establish that first. Now, you gave a presentation and there were several asks, if you will. My question to you is that list available to us up here in writing?
Sure.
And is there a dollar value affixed to what those asks are? Because we don't know what that dollar value is.
So,
And the concept of helping, I guess, is maybe appealing to everybody. But unless we know exactly what the dollars are, and unless we can draw a straight line between those dollars and achieving the B or A status, I have a concern about that. Because I don't think that we need to throw money into a situation that the school board clearly, over the years, has had the responsibility, a void, if you will, for filling, and you haven't filled it. And to ask us to do it, or to collaborate with you, we can do a lot of things that don't require direct dollars. This community is blessed with so many nonprofits and neighborhood groups and, activists, whatever, however you want to phrase it. We have plenty and plenty of volunteers that I think that if we could figure out a way to address some of the more intangible needs, for example, recognizing the children, or, doing fun things that don't really cost a material amount of money, I think that you would get a lot of buy-in from the community. I think that the concept of a liaison, while it is very appealing, frankly, I think the school board should pay that fee, that cost of the liaison. Okay, I really do. Because I know that we have the capacity here within this city to implement a lot of the things that may be identified that we can do. Okay. But there's some other more hard and direct questions I need to ask. First of all, We're talking about finally, after years and years and years, addressing the overcrowding situation. I'd like to believe that that came about as a result of your presence on the school board. But apparently your predecessors didn't find it a priority. Now that we've identified it and you've taken the action, but it's still going to take a few years to implement it and smooth things out.
Some of it will happen this year. It's a
My question is,
6-year plan.
as it sits right now, as we stand right now, when you make these adjustments, what does the capacity situation in the city of Lake Worth look like at the end of this new plan that you have for overcrowding? Are we going to have capacity to take in more students?
Barton actually has a ton of space, so.
Well, you're moving children over there.
Yeah,
My
I'm just
question
saying that
is,
we
once
have
it's fully
extra
implemented,
space.
do we have the capacity to take on more children?
Barton's only at about 60% capacity, so even though we're at like 115 at South Grade and I think a little bit higher than that, 117 at Highland.
Or how many munchkins would you say that is? Could we
Well,
take in 100
so
more?
Barton can hold
the city?
1,200 kids and then 60% capacity. Do that. But it's got lots of room there. What we have to do is make Barton more appealing. Though all the school grades are the same, there's a serious love for South Grade and Highland, and that's why I think it's really doing so well. I'm actually really proud of the principals at those schools because they've done such a great job. So I think Barton has come up a lot recently, and I'm very happy with what they're doing. But now we have to make Barton a school that everybody wants to go to as much as they want to go to Highland and South Grade. I think that's going to happen. And then obviously North Grade's right at, I think they're in the 95% capacity area, but we added in the middle school there, which I think is going to make it a place that people really want to be too. But there's plenty of space at North Grade going forward with our projections, so that shouldn't be a problem. But yes,
Let me
we
ask the
have more
question a
space.
different way. Currently, forget whether an individual school has overcrowding or doesn't have overcrowding. The number of children we have in the elementary schools in our city.
Mm-hmm.
Are we over capacity in the city right now with children in the elementaries?
No,
Okay,
no,
how
we're
much
good.
more can we take on?
A couple hundred?
We could take on a couple hundred more.
Yeah, that would be
Okay.
my guess.
That's a question I want to have answered. Okay, so here's what I'm asking of you.
Sure.
And I would hope that my colleagues here will work with this. But I really think that if we're going to start talking about throwing real money around to an organization that clearly should be funding these things themselves, I think we need to know what those dollars look like before we even start having a conversation about committing dollars
Well, let me
on behalf of
answer
the school
that.
board.
So first of all, we don't fund any liaison positions at any of the cities. That's not something that we have ever done. The cities that have a person who works on education in those cities has really been a decision on the city councils or commissions to take that on. So that's been something that has been on the municipalities. Those positions, in my mind, I imagine a person I imagine what it costs to pay for a teacher. So something in a comparable range, which I think is about $70,000, including benefits and all that in. And then I imagined that person would have a small budget to go along with it. So in my head, that is about $80,000 or so. So that's what I had imagined for a yearly cost for the city. As far as the program that I am working to try to fund outside of the city work, we imagine today that that's probably about somewhere between 200 and 250,000, so not including the liaison here in the city. So the goal is to get that money from all of our partnership organizations, from different foundations in the area. And so I think what the city being involved in, you really bring that level of support and belief in the city and the work being done here. I think it really says a lot about a community when they get involved in their education, especially when it's a financial commitment like that, to have a person. The Delray has seen some really good success from having a person involved over 20 years now that they've put that person in there. And I think, just the commitment and having a person working 40 hours a week on education in the city has really made the difference between Delray and Lake Worth as far as their education numbers.
Okay. Well, I maintain that I really would like to see those numbers, and frankly, I have a real aversion to the idea that we're doing something, that we theoretically would do something or participate on a level to do some things that the school board should have been doing all along, especially with the budget that you have.
Well, can I push back just a little bit on that?
Yeah.
So let me just say that we don't believe that all kids come in with the same blessings in life to our school system. Every child comes with a different level. And so the way that we do equity at the school system is to try to meet them where they're at. So our children that come in with more needs, and I have to say Lake Worth has a lot of needs. We have children that have trauma. We have children that have more ESE needs, children who come in with food and housing insecurity. There's a lot of things there that we have to try to make up for as a school system. And so when those children come in with those additional needs, we do put additional resources towards it. We put a lot of additional resources. So for instance, Barton has been behind the times a little bit in their grades. And the reason that it came up is because we put so many more resources to Barton. It was a school that I would say kind of got skipped over a little bit in years past. But since I've been on the board, I have really pushed hard because to me, it's completely unacceptable. You know, it's an area that has been frustrating to me because I do know that our children, some of them need more. And so we do put a lot more efforts and things into that. The other thing that you'll see is that if you go to the wealthier communities, sometimes there are additional funding streams that we couldn't dream of here in Lake Worth, such as their PTAs or additional foundations, or just groups that want to come and just give money, or the parents just supporting different programming, or even like at my school, North Grade, it is pulling teeth to get kids on that safety patrol trip. We have a few parents who are fully paid, but it's due next week, and I think we've got some kids that haven't put $1 into it yet. So those teachers and principals are fundraising from anyone that they can to be able to make up that difference, just so the children can do something that's a given for everybody else who's a fifth grader in Palm Beach County. So, you know, we are doing our very best to come up with that difference. And yes, it is a massive budget, but it's 200,000 children, 27,000 employees, and 185 schools that cover just an unbelievable amount of square footage and air. We have gotten a lot of funding from our community lately. I think things are going to get better in a lot of ways, but I do think there's certain things that we still aren't paying for. And it's because there really isn't extra money. I go to the meetings, I see the budget, I vote on it. I promise you, we are not throwing money around. It's not the case.
Before I conclude, I'd like you to go back to your comment about North Grade. I was unaware that you have children there that are not going to be able to go on this trip. How much do you need?
Each child is about $1,000 to go.
How many children need
I
help?
think right now we're down about 20. There's
You
20.
need
that-
$20,000 to send the patrols to DC?
Yeah, I could get you an exact number if you want, where they're at. They're
South grade.
South Grade, Barton, North Grade, Highland.
You know,
I'll
okay.
give them to you. If you guys want them, I'll tell you. We'll find out. I can find out tomorrow.
Well, these are things that, you know, throughout the year, if you want to talk about collaborating with the cities and their neighborhoods and the good people in the cities, these are things we need to know about. And yes, you could argue that because we don't have a liaison, it's more difficult to get that word out. But I also know that you live in this city and you know that, you know, news travels. We have many ways of communicating with each other here in the city, and people are very, very active and very, very giving and very, you know, in that capacity.
Well, everything was due today. So today was the deadline for North Grade, at least, just because I have a daughter who's fifth grader. And so next week is the day that they have to send the names off. So what I usually do is when we do get the final number, is I post it on Facebook and I say, if anybody wants to donate, here's where you go. And this is what we need. So
Point of
that's what I'll do.
information,
Yes.
city manager, do you have authority to write checks south of $25,000? That's a question. Okay.
Okay, we just need the answer to it, and then we're off the point of information. It's a separate
That's
aside.
not the topic of the workshop.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
All right, let me,
I'm sorry. I thought
I'm not done. Thanks. Anyway, Erica, see me later. I will fund one of the children,
Thank you.
okay?
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
I still, you know, I'm going to have a real tough time, struggle with this, and I'm going to challenge you to give us hard numbers, and I'm challenging my colleagues here to not get ahead of ourselves. with this concept. Yes, we all want to help, and we want to do what's right. But you know what, we also want to make sure the school board is doing absolutely everything they can possibly do. And I have to tell you, I don't see that in my heart as having been the case here at Lake Worth. And what I'm saying to you is there's a lot of making up that needs to occur in my mind's eye towards the city of Lake Worth. And the school board needs to say, you know what? Lake Worth, if you want to call it special or you want to call it in greater need, however you want to phrase it. And maybe the school board maybe should just stop for a minute and recognize that Lake Worth is here and that we have real needs that haven't been addressed, and they need to stop what they're doing and fix them instead of just carrying on business as usual. And then you will come in here and your colleagues will do the same thing in other communities. You know, I just think maybe we can spend a little more time focusing on the real needs of the students. So you're telling me that we have capacity to take on more children. And like I said, my bottom line is whatever we spend, there has to be a direct line, as Commissioner Hardy said. We need to know that it's measurable. And if we're not going to get the results, I don't know that it's something that we could support long-term, just, you know, putting up money and not seeing a measurable
Well, what about,
difference.
what if we do 1 year and I come back with results? You know, you fund it for just a year and then I'll come back and show you what we've done.
Well, whether we do it for 1 year or whatever, we still need to know what the numbers are before we can approve it. Okay, and
To be
But I-
determined.
All right,
thank you. That's all I have.
Vice Mayor.
Okay, I wrote a lot of different notes, some of them cross over. So, the education liaison, if we move forward with an education liaison, I would like to see a who, what, where. I'd like to see what cities are doing it, how much they're paying, and what the job is. You know, it's one thing to have a vision and what we'd like to see done, but I'd like to see what they're doing in other, areas and what may be working for them and may not, you know.
Have actually
have-
come in and presented
I have
for us.
Del Rey's job description I can
Yep.
send you
I would
right
love it.
now. But
She
I'm
came in
working
and
off of
presented
that
us.
one to, yeah.
Okay, because before I approve any funding, I'd like to see exactly what it's going to cost, what their job is going to do, and again, a direct line. We had talked about children that did not get VPK. Do we know how many are in VPK or how many that need the additional hours?
Yeah, so we do. I gave those to you before. My memory is escaping
Yeah,
me.
I remember that we had a certain amount that was on a waiting list. And
There was 20, I believe.
There was 20 on the waiting list, but I would say that the 20 wasn't an accurate number. That was how many people we'd actually gotten to fill out the paperwork, knowing that they weren't going to get it, and that's a difficult thing to get people to do. So I think there's a couple hundred in the city that are currently in VPK, in a form of VPK, be it during the day and the longer day, extended day. But I can get those numbers again. I have them, so.
Because my
Check it
thought
out.
is more of, if we're gonna spend some money, I'd rather get these kids in VPK first. Whether it's funding that comes from the state, whether it's funding that comes from us, whether it's funding that comes from grants, only because I think that's the biggest need. We hear from the principals in the schools, especially, you know, I'm concerned for the children that are moving from South grade because they're on one level and they're moving to a school that isn't necessarily on that same level. I'm very concerned for Barton, the children that are coming from one of the other schools that are going to Barton, and Barton's not prepared for it, especially the dual languages and things like that. I'm also concerned for Highland, as you move children, and then we have all these new housing developments coming on with more children. We need to make sure that we're looking down the line, because you said that we could probably take on about another 100 students, but we need everybody at the same table, and maybe that's where a liaison comes in, but we need everybody at the same table because that district has huge amounts of new housing that are geared towards families with children. The adoptive family unit, the other ones. So as you move children and relocate them, all of a sudden you're putting a bunch more children in the next year or 2 years down the line.
So the children in the new developments will go to Highland still. Those are
Okay.
still going to go there. The children that were moving were kids that were already being bused to Highland from the other side of 95, and we're going to bus them to Barton instead. So they're still being bused, which actually I thought was a not great thing, but apparently the parents really enjoy the bus. They like having it. They feel safer for their children to be able to do that. I wanted them to walk to Palm Springs, but I kind of lost that one. I do think a liaison has a lot of work that they could do here. Really, on a lot of the things that you were mentioning, but really being that interface to market VPK. Because I think as a city, we are not getting that word out that sending your kids to school at 4 is a really good idea. And I would say partially that's on us. We do have a few programs in the city, but private providers are much bigger in this county as a whole, providing pre-K. We don't do it as much. We really haven't wanted to take that away from people who use this as the way they earn their living. We don't need to do more services for education if somebody else will do it. So the Early Learning Coalition just works to make sure their quality is at the same level that we would provide it. So that's what they do. Obviously, private providers, it's hard to get them all on the same level at the same
But
time.
if a parent has a child in for 3 hours a day, and then they're moving them somewhere else, would it not make more sense to have them in the same, because, you know, you said it was, sometimes it's hard to get them there and things like that, but, you know, if they have them there for 3 hours, to me, it would make sense if they're taking them out and putting them in another childcare, you know, or they can't afford it, you know, to try to figure out how I did a quick number, so you said, Riviera got a $150,000 grant, that's about 33 kids at the, you know, VPK, you know, I'm just trying to see where we can best spend our money out the gate to start off. A couple other things. Now, we have a charter school in the city, which is an A charter school.
Yeah.
Have we done any research on what a charter school does or what we can do better to get to, you know, how are they an A and the rest of our schools a C? You know, I think we need to do a little research and try to figure out, maybe you can answer that question. Again, concerned that when these kids get to Barton and Barton's not up to par from the schools that they're coming from, just a big concern. Okay, I think that's all I have.
Commissioner Robinson?
I just, we're at a workshop, we're taking a workshop to a workshop. If we can just get consensus that we want to make a commitment from the budget to keep our money in to make a difference in our schools. Appreciate the school board's involvement, and obviously there's things that come up short. But I'm suggesting that we take a consensus on the budget item and continue to work on defining what we want to do with it.
Okay. We have consensus on the fact that we want to at least look at further involvement?
Yes, for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. One day.
Well, and for the record, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
the reason I don't agree is because we don't have dollars to look at. We were essentially asking for a blank check.
No,
we're
actually,
not.
I don't agree
what Commissioner Robinson just recommended was to bring it back in exact dollars and amounts for us to talk and to vote on.
Well, that's
But to
what the
say that-
consensus should be.
But to say, the consensus, that's exactly what we said, was to show our support, possibly financially, if we're shown the numbers to vote on items.
Okay.
Can I add one more layer to that?
Yes,
Within the context of the upcoming budget process?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, just a few things. My understanding is that some of Highlink's kids are going to Palm Springs. There were 2 SACs west of I-95, so it's like over 100 are going to Palm Springs, over 100 are going to Barton.
Yep.
The kids who live closer to 10th Avenue are going to Palm Springs because it's literally across the street. It actually shaves their commute by like a mile. Also, it is my understanding, based on conversations that I had with, I believe his name is Mr. Link.
Jason, yeah.
Jason, right. That will be effective next year, but the numbers will continue, the capacity numbers will continue to drop as kids who are grandfathered in, like 4th and 5th graders and dual language kids, eventually matriculate out of elementary school onto middle school. So that's
We don't
that's
generally
correct.
move kids when they've been at a school for a very long time.
Precisely.
So we don't try to upset their lives. And then siblings are always allowed to stay.
Right, siblings, right. Yes.
And then any children that are in the dual language program, we didn't want them
At
to.
either school.
At any school
Right.
that, we wanted to make sure we continued their education. So they're going to stay. So we really tried to make it as palatable as possible for these families. So really, it's just families that don't have a child in the school or either have a very young child in the school that would be moving.
Right, and even with them staying, both schools will be under capacity effective next year.
Yeah, but it's gonna
It'll
get
be
better
close.
and better
Yeah,
over time.
it'll
So
get
you'll
better
see
and better.
numbers
Right.
go down, and then when the new developments go up, it'll kick up a little bit. But I do think you're gonna see them be a lot better.
Awesome.
Those schools.
The other thing is, I just want the 150K that Riviera asked for was not for seats; it was for a curriculum.
They paid for a curriculum. They
Right.
put together their collaborative. They've actually put funding in there specifically to encourage parents to come to different pre-Ks, so to get them involved. And actually, apparently, they haven't used any of it yet, so they're still not sure how Revere is going to tackle that. But that's why they wanted to put the parent piece a little heavier in this version, because it really didn't get pushed hard enough in the Riviera Beach Collaborative. So we're going to try to make a collaborative that really pushes more onto the parents. So they had put some funding in for that, and then I think they actually used some of the ELC staff time was put into that budget.
Cool. And then the last thing is, I just want, Barton is not subpar. The issue is that there's a population mismatch. South Grade is a very largely Latinx school with a dual language program, and Barton is not so much so. And there's no dual language program at Barton. So the dual language kids at South Grade who got redrawn to Barton will get to stay at South Grade. And the idea and the hope is that we got to get Barton a dual language program as well, whether that's Spanish or French or what have you. We've got to get them a dual language. So
Did any of you guys go to the Bibliarte this weekend?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you see the Barton kids?
Yes.
They were by far the
Fantastic.
best.
I
I just
know.
was so floored with how awesome they are. Those kids are just unbelievably talented. And I just think, they're special in just different ways. And it's, they don't have a dual language program, that's true. But I think we need to put something exciting over there for those families as well. But that capacity of that school is massive,
huge.
and South Grade has an
Huge.
itty bitty capacity.
Right.
So being full at that school is quicker
Right.
than it would happen over at Barton.
And then just
I just want to have a public comment card too, and we want to move on. So
Okay.
wrap it up.
Just-
You said the last one was the last one, and he's got a bell on too. And I would like to talk too. I'm sorry.
Okay, just some questions. I know Broward's the sixth largest school district in the country. Where are we?
10th.
We're 10th. Okay. How well funded are you relative to other similarly large school districts?
Well, in Florida, we're all the same. We're all funded the same. And it's allocated by the state. They decide the millage, how much money we get. We get about $7,200 per kid. And then money changes based on if there's a special need of the child. We
Right.
get additional funding for that. As far as locally, one of the things we have going for us is obviously a strong philanthropic group. So we're able to raise some additional funding there. And we have one of the most successful school food service departments in the country. So our school food service is always in the black, which
So
is nice.
the school districts are all funded pretty much equally on a per student basis. And in the state of Florida, are we funding students the way that other states are funding education? Okay. All right. So
we are
we're below the.
We're like
okay.
46th or something. It's
Yeah,
really pathetic.
the last I read was 45th. What has happened to your millage rate over the past 3 years?
It has gone down.
It has gone down. Okay. Who decides? Do you decide your millage rate? Who decides your millage
The
rate?
state does.
The legislature decides your millage rate. Okay. So every year, the legislature has forced on this local government a lower and lower millage rate.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your tax rate is actually going down. Your ability to fund services is actually decreasing. Okay.
But luckily, we got some referendums, so that's going to really help us out. That's the biggest difference for us. We did a budget the other night, and everyone just kept saying, thank God for the voters.
We had a conversation about charter schools. There are 3 charter schools that are suing the school district to basically invalidate the referendum.
I can't talk about
You can't talk
lawsuits
about
that
that.
we're
Well, I can. One of those charter schools is located here in this city. It's the same charter school that we tout as suing the school district to invalidate the referendum that gave the school district extra funding to pay our teachers. And as far as the research, how is this charter school able to do so well? I can tell you, charter schools get to cherry pick their kids. If our public schools could cherry pick their kids the way that charter schools do, it would be a different story. I guess my last question is, and I'll be done. What happened to your FTE funding over the past several years?
FTT?
Your full-time
FTE.
equivalent, your per student funding, has it increased with inflation?
So it goes up about 1% a year. This year, I think it's 1.16 1.15 that we're expecting it to go up. But one of the real tough things about this current budget that's coming forward is that the allocation of funding is actually been shifted. So though we had funding coming in per student, that if you look at the budget as a whole, it looks like it's gone up 1%. It's actually gone down in so many areas and then gone up in different areas. So our Best and Brightest program, which I'm not a big fan of at all, actually is getting really highly funded this year. And that is, that's a program where it's kind of not a great program, but what it is basically they give teachers extra funding into their paychecks if they pass the SAT at a high rate.
10 years ago.
Yeah, and also got a great evaluation. So it bypasses the student and goes directly to the teacher, which is awesome for the teacher if they happen to have graduated in the last few years and were able to take the SAT recently or spent their own money to go take the SAT. And then that it's just going to be, it's not an accurate representation of the budget in the past,
Okay,
unfortunately.
I just wanted to get into the record that if we're wondering why it's been difficult for the school district to fund things that we think make sense, it's because much of the school district's funding is not decided by the school district. It's decided by people in Tallahassee who live far away from us and don't know our needs. And they have made a habit of deciding not to fund education the way that it should be funded. So Ms. Whitfield and her colleagues are in a terrible situation every single year. She wants to help us. The school district wants to help us. The state of Florida has been more or less indifferent to us and other large counties. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in, having to step up and fill the void that they created in Tallahassee and that they create every year.
We had a meeting, which was an educational workshop, and this, I would just urge the city manager next time. I know the intent of this was to discuss us supporting financially education in our city and how to support it, yet the agenda item reads education issues, which means we could basically be here all night just talking about educational issues. So knowing the intent of this was to talk about funding, I'll round up any last remarks in regards to funding for education, and then I do have a public comment card, and we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank
Vice
you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd really like to finish what I had started to talk the last time about the consensus, the need for consensus. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on this, that we're not saying that we are going to actually fund anything. We are saying that if we get the numbers back, we will consider funding something. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
In that case, you have consensus, complete consensus.
Awesome.
Now, the other point, for the record, you have complete consensus. The other point is, Mr. Hardy just went off and rattled a bunch of opinions. First of all, for the record, he's a school teacher, so he too would benefit. You know, he has a biased inside.
Well, point of order.
Well, no. Here's
just-
my point.
I don't object.
Don't
I
benefit
don't
from
object.
education.
I do
Here's
not
what I'm
object
getting
to
at.
this.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's not let the
Can
school board.
quiet in the chambers,
Let's
please?
not let the school board off the hook, okay? Because some people perceive funding to either be cut or whatever they perceive it to. They're in the same situation that all the other school districts are in. My issue is that the school board over the years, historically, in my humble opinion, could have done more for the city of Lake Worth, and that's my point. So, saying the state somehow shortchanged the school board, I don't know if that's really material. The point is, the school board's been charged for years with the responsibility of educating our children, and in some cases, they haven't come up as well as maybe they could. And that's not a reflection on Ms. Whitfield, because she's, in her first term, and she's working very hard, and we appreciate that. So, for the record.
I agree. Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Just real quick, for the record, I was not touting charter schools. I believe in all education for children. My nieces and nephews are homeschooled. I believe in all education, but I think we need to take a look at all education and see how we can do better.
We are one of the best in the state. We're doing a really good job. I'm very, very proud of us.
And I'm proud of the job that you're doing. I'm going to thank you for that. And I just want to remind everybody, just because I finally get to talk. What is it that you say, Vice Mayor? If you're not at the table, you're on the
You're on
menu.
the menu.
Well, sort of it's the other thing. In politics and in these groups and organizations, if you're not at the table, you're not on the menu. And that's the way it goes. I mean, think about the TPA, the transportation, which is the former Metropolitan Planning Organization. We didn't have any presence there. We never saw any dollars coming in. Our impact fees, we're paying millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars out in our roadway projects, never seeing a dollar, a dime being spent in our community. Now we can say in the last few years we've had millions of dollars being spent in our community. Why? because I'm scrappy and our commissioners are scrappy and we fight for it. We go up there and we do what we have to do to say it. You know what? We're kind of the underdogs in Lake Worth, and we have been ignored. Our schools have been ignored. We've been ignored. Our city's been ignored on a funding issue in a lot of different ways. But if we don't open our mouths and stand up for ourselves, we get nothing, not a zip. And that's where we have to be strong now, you know? And that's what we're doing with this. And I will tell you, 7 years ago when I got here, guess what? We had never funded a GIS position. Well, what's a GIS position? Well, think of all the roadway projects and all the things when we're mapping and plotting the roadways and all the jobs that are going to be done. That's something that other cities had 20, 30 years prior. And just 70 years ago, we started that whole department, and now look what they're doing. You can go on and click on the website and see where the projects are happening and things are happening. That needed to be done to bring us up to the current century. So the one little thing I picked up in your comments earlier was Delray Beach did this, 20 years ago they hired an educational liaison. 20 years ago. Delray Beach and Boynton Beach, probably the two best examples of people that get the most dollars out of federal grants, state grants, because they have someone working for them. They're not asking their city commission for money on a regular basis. They've got somebody working with the schools to get that money from outside organizations and through grants and other types of projects. And guess what? They're catered to our needs. We're not Jupiter. We're not Boynton. We're not Delray. We're Lake Worth. And we have very separate needs. And again, we're the underdogs. But if we're not at the table and we're not fighting and speaking up for it, guess what? We get nothing. And that's what we got for a long time, but that's not what we're going to get. So just keep in mind that we have to collaborate, yes, but we can't be reactive to whatever's happening in our community. We have to start being proactive. And we need to start planning for that. And how do we do that? By having a voice and a seat at every table when it comes to education from our kids. And that's what a liaison would do. And I will ask you to consider that at a future vote. Thank you. All right, let's move
you,
on.
guys.
Oh, wait, I forgot. Cheryl Rashkin, you're up. Do I have any more cards for this item?
That's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Cheryl Rashkin, 1302 South Conway. I just want to say thank you. It's nice to hear the positive interactions going on in this room. It's so great, especially when it comes to our children's education. We need a liaison. It's something we've talked about for years at different levels. You have representatives in this room right now of your neighborhood associations council. They're right there with you. They're pushing strong. We want our children to be educated. Charter schools do not get to pick and choose their kids. Private schools get to pick and choose their children. Charter schools, I feel, should be funded and treated the same because there's a need for those charter schools in certain locations. They garner children that want to do different things in their community and for their country. So you have to remember that as well. So I think it's a great idea. Push the liaison. Go for it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to item 3B, continue our sales tax conversation from the December 4th commission meeting. Oh, city manager, where shall we start?
Madam Mayor, this is another workshop item that was directed by y'all to staff to bring back to have a conversation about sales tax issues. Sorry for the broad term, but that's kind of basically where we are because you kind of all over the place with where you may want to go with it. But it's a healthy discussion that helps us continually get to hone direction for staff. So that's the reason we scheduled it and we left it open-ended.
One of the things that came to my attention immediately was numerous emails back and forth from people that were interested about our discussion about the pool. And I can see by the amount of noodles in this room, there are a few people that want to talk about the pool. So I guess we could start with that conversation. I also know that there has been a group that has come together, and I was presented today with, I don't know how many documents, it says signatures that were presented. How many are there? 800. Over 800? 800 signatures that were presented by people who were interested in discussing the pool facility. I've got a number of cards here. I also know that there was a group, I guess, responsible for this that had put some ideas and some plans together. And because it's a workshop, I thought it would be appropriate if they presented what they've been working on. And again, it's not necessarily, it's not brought forth by the city. This is brought forth by a group of residents of the community that have worked hard on it. And I thought they should be given a presentation time to present at this workshop, if that's okay with my fellow commissioners.
Is that a 10-minute limit or?
10-minute limit. Just like a presentation. Is that okay with you guys?
I don't disagree.
Okay. Would anyone like to step forward to do a presentation? You don't have to take the 10 minutes. Please. Mr. Rosenschein?
Hi. This is really wonderful. We worked with all 5 of you when we were talking about the pool.
Yeah.
Can't hear me?
There you go then. Yeah, you're gonna have to talk straight into that.
Yeah, this is a wonderful opportunity that all 5 of you that I've talked to and we have talked to about the need to bring back the pool. And I've only been here 2.5 years. And all you gave me a lot of attention and our group a lot of attention. And we thank you. In this group here, there's a lot of people here that have participated, and I really thank them. I really thank them also. I would like to make a statement. I am prepared for questions. I was going to make a statement, and I certainly will take your questions and try to be as responsive as I can to your questions. My name is Don Rosenschein. I live at 131 North Gulfview Road, Unit 3. It's a wonderful town. Right on the golf course, I can see the intercoastal, and it's really I really feel lucky. So, the purpose of this statement is meant to be a discussion about the concept of the pool at the casino. It is also meant to explain more fully our thinking for those who have taken their time to come. I want you all to understand where we're coming from, those who have chosen to support us. Being here a short time, I want to assure you that we and I realize that you and the community have been through this issue before. This is not the first time. And that's what I appreciate also, because you've been through this before. And somebody comes in and wants to make you do it again. I also believe that you care as much as we do. However, we believe right now that we should highlight the issues surrounding the pool in a stark and bold manner in order to better facilitate the public debate. So when we talk about the fact that things are not what they should be, it's not to personalize anything. I believe we all ought to do this together, work this out together. And that's where I'm coming from, and that's where a lot of the group is coming from. This is a tough problem. We realize that. We have no working family community pool in Lake Worth. We are not about the business of casting blame. We as concerned citizens and public officials are responsible for this. Only we can make it right. All of us. And we're willing, as you know, to participate with you in any way we can to bring that pool back. In the summer, to have an asset like this pool lie fallow and in disrepair is unacceptable. It is unacceptable because some children and adults in this town do not have access to a pool. Summers, it seems similar to Honduras, with temperatures in the 90s, with suffocating humidity. This can't stand. I was a kid from West Virginia. It never was hot like this. This is crazy. We've got to do something. The summer ocean as an alternative is not acceptable. Most kids and adults are not attracted to the ocean when water temperatures in the high 80s, which they are. I spend a lot of time at the ocean. I love the ocean, but it doesn't work. And the water is frequently full of seaweed and rip currents and shore breakers. That doesn't, the sand is too hot. The sun is blistering. And that is proven by the lack of activity at the casino between May and November. It doesn't have to be. In the summer, the beach is sparsely attended during these months. Just ask the merchants who are begging for this pool to come back. When you go in there, it's like a coronation. When you talk to them about, we're trying to bring the pool back. And you should see the loss of employment. Mamma Mia's in the winter has 8 to 10, 12 people working for it. But from May to November, it's about 3 or 4. All those people lost their jobs. Same thing at Mulligan's. Why is that? Why shouldn't everybody have an opportunity to work? Why is it that seasonally affects so many people? Why do we have to accept the fact of seasonally? These are not new ideas. You all know these, all right? So there are no kids taking swimming lessons, no adults at water aerobics or swimming laps, no one learning to life save, no one playing Marco Polo, which is a wonderful thing that kids play in the pools. Wouldn't it be reasonable that a mother in midsummer, burdened with restless, hot children, wouldn't that be able to accompany them to a pool so they could get cool? That's basic. It's hard when you have kids in the summer and they have no place to go and they're hot. Wouldn't we want to be associated with and be an advocate for an amenity like that? Have you seen Lake Lido, which most of you have seen? You should see Lake Lido in mid-July. Sometimes as many as 600 kids go through that in one day, and they're just having fun. It's a wonderful service, and it helps the community in all kinds of ways. It's a spectacle, but not at the Lake Worth Casino. It's very lonely there and forlorn. I'm there. It's a quiet place for 8 months of the year. Now, there are shoulder seasons where it would be quiet anyway, but it doesn't have to be like this, not with this asset. With an asset like this, why would we put up with this? And in the winter, it's politically impractical and a dereliction to have a natural tourist spot in a tourist town that lies unusable. It boggles my mind. And we're all trying to figure out how to do this. I understand that. Most tourists can't and won't swim in 74-degree water. They just won't do it. And there's a lot of man of war in the winter. And there's many days when you can't swim because if they sting you, you'll feel the impact for the whole day. Now, we have pictures. People say, well, the tourists won't go to the pool. I think they're over here. And I think most of you have seen these pictures.
You need to address the
I
mayor.
don't know how, it's sort of a
Yeah,
You need to
logistical-
address,
Yeah,
you're
you
supposed to
need
be
to-
talking to them.
You need to address us
Oh,
as
I'm
opposed to
sorry.
the room. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, we took pictures at the Four Seasons Hotel on New Year's Eve at 12 o'clock noon. And if you see on the ocean how many people are in the pool, you see the pictures of right here. There's no one there. Okay? This is what was happening at the same time. This was noon. All right? I wanted you to see that because people say, well, the tourists won't use the pool. Now, I went back 2 days ago just to make sure. Same kind of day. This is the same kind of day. It was very, very sunny and a gorgeous beach day. So I went to my guy at the Four Seasons. I said, what's going on here? There's nobody on the beach. And he said, people don't like the beach, they go to the pool. And this was a gorgeous beach day. You don't always have a gorgeous beach day. So I wanted you to know that we've checked it out. So we believe that tourists will use the pool. Now you got to promote it. You got a lot of things to do, and we have in your packet, because of Commissioner Amoroso, you asked us to put some marketing ideas in the packet, and we did. We need to do better, but we did put a lot of ideas as to how to market it, and we would be responsible for helping you market it. Okay, so I want you to understand that. Now we can charge the tourists a higher rate.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, Mr.
It's been 10
Rosenstein.
minutes.
I didn't realize what the time constraint was.
Yeah, it was 10 minutes. It was told to you by Sylvina this afternoon. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
We have,
Sorry, I
we have a
couldn't
lot of
finish.
questions now. If anybody is also in the organization wants to address any of the items that you didn't get a chance to,
Okay,
when I
thanks.
call your cards up, you'll be able to do that if you'd like to.
Next.
After the presentation, before I go to these cards, I just want to state a couple of different things. This is a workshop, so this is a conversation that we're having. We're not voting on anything here tonight, just to remind everybody of that. Also to say that, we've had many discussions in the past, and some of the obstacles that we've had in the past were the problems of, number one, the pool being, for people who aren't up on the pool, maybe you came for the education conversation, I don't know. The pool has been closed for some time now. The pool was opened,
By us.
by many of the sitting commissioners here. The pool was open several years back, but then there was a crack in the pool. There was a sanitary problem with the pool and the processing of it. The cracks did not allow for the water and the chlorine usage to actually clean the pool properly, that it could be used on a citywide basis, that it would be a health hazard to do so. So that's when the discussions began for conversations on what to do for the pool. The pump house blew up. Also, pieces crashed on a lifeguard's head, I believe. It was pretty abominable. So it was a necessity to shut it down, but the conversation began, okay, well, what can we do? What is the desire of the community? I will say, and many of you know that I support a pool at that beach. It's been a problem because whenever it comes to a commission like that, they look at the history. And the history, not just the history of the pool, but the history is the numbers for people actually utilizing the pool and attending the pool were pretty dismal. And so whenever the conversation came, we always have a lot of passionate people about keeping the pool, but yet we didn't have the numbers to actually reflect the argument to do that. I was happy to see the neighborhood associations come out when they did their evening swims and the raft race people running their raft races in the pool because they couldn't do so because of the health issues of the intercoastal that one year and other types of things. And all of a sudden people that had never been to the pool saw this pool and said, holy cow, this thing's gorgeous. This thing's huge. This whatever. If it only was open hours, we could actually use it because we work for a living, and then we put a recreation amenity out there and people were allowed to bring some beverages and some food and they've had some private parties out there and people were really starting to enjoy it. So I think from a usage point, we're starting to see people, first of all, discovering the pool for the first time that never had been there, supporting people that utilize it on a daily basis or weekly basis that have loved the pool since it was created, or at least since they arrived here. So this conversation has a lot of heated and heartfelt opinions on both sides, from a very practical and pragmatic and financial position, and from an emotional position. I'm a history nut, and in my office, in my building, when I come downstairs, the second I come out the elevator, there's a picture of the original 1923, I think picture was taken in 23, but a picture of the pool in all of its glory, with the balconies overlooking it and the saltwater pool and I look at it and I'm like, I want that. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's a part of our history, and it's a part of the old, you wonder why it was called the casino, where the casino was actually the casino in Baths back in the day, and people came to use that facility. So you've got that history there, and then you've also got a city that's just coming out of financial hardships too, and trying to get back on track and trying to come up with solutions for everybody. So whatever your opinion on either side of this, and we're going to get to everyone's cards, whatever your opinion, please everyone be respectful of both sides of the agenda item, and remember that the only way we're going to figure something out is to come together and find some sort of place in the middle or some sort of happy medium, and everyone to get aboard and support one another, whatever the decision is. But we have to come up with a decision, because this is a very important place on the beach. No matter which way you look at it, from an emotional, from a physical, from a recreational, from a financial standpoint, it's important to everybody for different reasons. So let's get on with it. Let's come up with a solution together, okay? All right. Alice Mann, followed by Judith Just. Where's Judith? Okay.
We're not doing that. We're not going there.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alice Mann. I live at 518 North Federal Highway, and I have nothing new to say. I've spoken before you for 2 years now, so I'll keep it short. But I do want to see some real commitment and some moving forward. There have been a few little steps, but basically we're nowhere further along than we were 2 years ago. So I want to see some commitment. I see it on the part of the community. I want to see it on the part of the commission to actually move forward, present some plans that we can then comment on, and then proceed to do something. Because, I don't see anything happening. Even if you decide today, it's a few more years. And there are a lot of us who are stranded over at Lake Lidle, and we go there and we all commiserate, but we have had a pool here. It's been, what, you said 1923? So almost 100 years. And I don't see why we don't have one now. And I think in designing it, we really need to accommodate our regular swimmers who are here. The one plan that I did see had, I think, 4 lanes that could have been used for swimming, but one of those was opened onto another part of the pool that had other activities. So it really just left 3 lanes. And I think there are a lot of us who wouldn't even go there for that, because you'd figure you wouldn't get a lane. So I hope you do something. And with the 1 cent sales tax, it's time to move forward.
Thank you. Judith, did you want to give your time to Don? All right, let's pull it all at one time if there's anybody else that's doing that, okay? Oziano?
Well, I don't have to speak. Me. Oziona, 826 North Palm Way. Everybody knows me. And we just make concern. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Michael, to listen to us. We really need, you have to listen to us. We have to do something. The thing is happening right now in the pool, and what happened right now in the second floor in the casino is a crime. We have the valuable resources, and it's waste. How is possible to leave that condition done? Why don't ask anybody about us? Why don't, we are, more than anybody else. We love the city. We can do everything for the city. We don't have any political interest to run for anything. Our interest is the well-being of the city, the well-being all the citizens here. So far we have 800 people concerned about this problem. Talking with my neighbors, talking to everybody. We have ideas, practical ideas. really simple. Let's do it. Michael, help us. I mean, honestly, you have to help us.
Direct us toward me.
Very simple ideas. You many times said, I love the city. Why do something? You know, we have these very simple plans we put together with my wife Susan and the neighbors, and that's, you know, look at it. It's really, that's us. That's our city. We love a city. And, you know, I am sick of it, of controversy. Nothing. Forget about controversy. We are in the same boat. Please, let's just get together and do something. Whatever it takes, just do something.
Thank you. Tom Swartz, followed by Cheryl Rashkin.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I think it's so interesting that this sign is still posted outside of the pool, and the first word is temporary. It's an interesting word, and it's really a profound statement, I think, and it should make the city accountable for action because, after all, temporary is not permanent. It's not limited, brief, or a stopgap. The citizens are owed an operating pool with appropriate funding from the 1% sales tax, whether you use all the tax money or you use that tax money to support a bond issue or whatever. But certainly there's funding available. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Rashkin, followed by Lindy Cito.
Good evening again. Cheryl Rashkins, 1302 South Palmway. I think we need a pool, but I don't think we need it at the casino. I think it needs to be on this side of the bridge where you would get more community involvement and use of the pool. We have quite a few areas of our city where the families cannot afford to take their vehicles over there and park for an extended period of time. As in, we used to travel into the city when we lived in Royal Palm to go to the beach. And my children went to summer camp here in the city. They learned how to swim at the pool. One of my children was also a lifeguard, and he begged and pleaded with the captain at that point in time not to put him in the pool because of the foul usage of it by the little toddlers. So he asked not to be stationed in the pool. So we always got the beach. So he was happy with that. But people go to the beach to go to the beach. We all do that. We don't go to the beach to go to the pool. It was nice having the showers there, which is really great. Now you have more water features there to rinse off, which is really nice. And I'm glad that that was done. But we need a pool on this side. You know, we have so many parks within our city. We have community centers in the south end. We need something in the north end. Let's put a pool up there in another community center. Let's put something else out here to the western section of our city so that the kids that can't travel that far can have a place to go to in the summer. Let them go to the community pool. I used to do that when I lived up north because you couldn't go swimming in the Potomac. It was like really disgusting. So you went to the local community pool, but you couldn't drive very far. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindy, followed by Catherine Stewart. I hope I got that right.
Thank you so much. Lindy Cito, 316 Princeton Drive. I will say the first time that I've ever come as a citizen, I never thought it would be about a pool. I moved to Lake Worth 3 years ago. My husband and I purchased our home here after serving 10 years active duty military. I came to Lake Worth, I say by chance, but I live here by choice. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in my home here. I frequent your restaurants. I have family members and people that come here literally every month for all of the good things that Lake Worth brings. But I am tired of seeing us being fiscally irresponsible with the limited tax dollars that we have and the budget that we have. I understand nostalgia. I grew up with a public pool, but I'm from Mississippi, and 20 years ago we put dirt in it because it just wasn't sustainable. I ask you tonight, I know it's hard when there are many people, supposedly 800 people that got behind that. I ask you tonight to think about the thousands of us that are new here in this city who want to see progress. We're not afraid to talk about development. We still want to keep the charm, but we want to be sustainable. There is growth all around us. And you want to talk about making your schools better? Then bring more people here like me who want to be active. And we want to spend money in your downtown because that flows into the neighborhoods that don't have those resources, and we can get active to lift them up. So tonight, it's not about a pool, it's about the future. And I just ask that you'll have the fortitude to remember us and that we are the next generation of Lake Worth. We're here, we're not going anywhere, and we want to see you make good decisions about where you spend our money. Thank you so much.
Rebecca Oliphant? Rebecca Oliphant? Followed by Tom Copeland.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Rebecca Oliphant, and I live at 1724 11th Avenue North. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and my greatest fear for my children is being hit by a car. So I do not go up to the beach on my bicycle because people are flying across that bridge at 50 miles an hour. I do have a parking decal, but as anyone knows who have kids, if you pack your kids in the car, you tell them you're going somewhere, there's no parking, they're ready to get out, and you just can't. You don't want to pay for the parking. I do believe in a pool, but not up at the beach where the cost of building and the cost of parking I feel is prohibitive. I would rather see that penny sales tax money be brought in and enliven our residential and our downtown and just beautify the city. And I moved to Lake Worth, and I've been here 11 years because of all of our green space and for all of the people here who are involved in the community. I respect everybody's opinions here, and I'm so grateful that they are involved in the community. I just wish that some of that money, instead of being spent at the beach, which is already lovely, and people who go to the beach love the beach, but let's bring some of that money back and revitalize our center here and possibly make our alleys. I've seen in other cities, they're making them jogging paths or pedestrian walkways where people could walk maybe down to the public pool with their kids without fear of their children running into Dixie or running in front of cars. And that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tom Copeland, followed by Roseanne Malakatez.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Copeland, 1605 South Palm Way, and just for the record, I'm running for City Commissioner for District 4. I want to start off with a quote, and that quote is from somebody who's not here tonight, but the quote is, somebody told me, Tom, you need to understand the history of the city so that you don't repeat the mistakes of the history. And he was 100% right. And tonight's an opportunity for you guys to do that. I heard a lot of emotion tonight, and I didn't hear any facts. So I'd like to just lay out a couple of facts as I've known them to be as the previous chairman of the Finance Advisory Board, and we did take a deep dive into the pool complex. Number one, addressing the marketing, the idea that we can just market this. I'm a marketing executive, and if you gave me $500,000, I could have marketed that pool. The reason is marketing doesn't create demand. People create demand. Number two, this idea that tourism, this is going to bring tourism. That is a private beach hotel with tourists that are there that are sitting around that pool. We don't have any tourism in the city because we don't have a hotel in the city for them to stay in. Number three, the idea that because we've got red tide and sea lice and all the things that make a beach, okay, because we've got all that stuff that are happening, we need to have a solution on the beach. I don't believe that I've seen any other cities that are beachfront cities that are building pools to address the fact that they have hot beach sand and that it gets hot in the summertime in Florida. And then the last thing is money. So talking about the money and the amount of money that goes into it, minimum of $500,000 to fix it. We have our aquatics manager here tonight, who it's staff's opinion that that's an underestimation, and that's on top of $3.5 million that's been spent over the last 10 years in resurfacing, rebuilding the pool, putting the pavers, putting in all the plumbing and all the fixes that needed to happen 10 years ago, and on top of the operating costs of about $300,000 to $360,000 a year going forward. So here's the bottom line. And the pool has closed twice since then, by the way, I want to point out. $3.5 million, and the pool has closed twice. Why? Because it's structurally deficient and because it's unsafe. That's been the determination. here's the bottom line. Well, I guess that is the bottom line. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Roseanne Malakatez, followed by Susan Ono.
I'm not talking about rebuilding, building a pool. We have one there that's deserted. I'm not talking about a large amount of money. I'm only talking about taking care of what has been abandoned. And it's not a matter of construction, big construction. And the reason we're doing it is because there's money available that we can decide to use it. It's the appropriate time. And it doesn't, according to what I think we need, which is a practical point of view. And what we need to know is what you designate in funds first, before you can say what you want. And I'll tell you what I think we need. We need a swimming pool. And we have to have special priorities. And I think the pool is separate from any casino issue. So the priorities are, first, a swimming pool of the best standard. Second is restrooms, public restrooms. It's a disgrace. They're a disgrace. And the third thing is an office for the staff for the safety patrol. This is a simple thing. It's not going to take a lot of money if you do it right. And of course, open it up so people can see that it's there. It's very important. And what we have to do, our goals have to be just what we need, not some dreaming thing. And it has to be affordable, and it has to be able to be maintained.
Thank you, ma'am.
And staffed.
Thank you very much. Susan Ona, followed by Rebecca Hinson.
I'm sorry, can I just give you this?
Sure.
Because I don't stand it out.
Thank you.
I shake too much right now.
Oh, it's no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
They might remember. How many years old?
Thank you.
Good evening. Hello.
Yes, you're there. You're
I'm
on.
here? Okay. My name is Susan Ona, and I live at 826 North Lakeside. And thank you all for listening to us tonight to give our opinions on saving the pool. And I want to thank all of those of you who came tonight to support the issue. We are presenting tonight a vision of what might be done in renovating the pool to make a more visible and inviting venue for residents and visitors. The top priority is to get the pool back in operation for the people of Lake Worth community. And as we renovate badly needed dressing rooms and bathrooms and the lifeguard facilities, to think about how to incorporate a design that will allow people to see the pool activity from outside and inevitably draw them into participate and be a part of the pool. We envision a second floor, which I did in a little design here, that would connect with the existing second floor of the casino building, which would extend south above the facilities, the new facilities, allowing for seating and the service of refreshments from a restaurant that would eventually be located on the second floor. The casino complex is our most valuable asset in Lake Worth, and we need to make it come alive with a creative pool renovation and a smart use of the second floor potential. If we make the renovation of the pool and the facade attractive, we will get many more visitors who will love to come and sit around the pool or above the pool on the terrace above and view both the ocean and the intercoastal from sunrise to sunset, and who also will want to go to visit our downtown businesses. It can be very simple. It makes sense. Let's treasure the legacy we have and make our pool and casino building a real gathering place for our residents and visitors once again. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I might take those minutes from Dawn to say that, just as an example, the museum, the downtown museum, since we put signs outside, we have had a tremendous amount of people coming to the museum. So it's when you have exposure, when you have signs, when you have marketing, people will come. But if you don't have it, I used to sit in the museum and nobody would come to the museum. We'd have nobody coming up the stairs, maybe one or two on an afternoon. But since we put signs out and since people know about it, we have 20 to 30 to 40 people coming on a Saturday.
65 on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
People last night.
Rebecca Hinson. Rebecca Hinson, followed by Rita Romano. And just state your addresses too, please, guys.
I'm
Thanks.
Rebecca Hinson. I live at 818 North Palm Way. I came from Isla Mirada, Florida, 18 years ago, where a small population supports a similar pool to ours. But they run it like a business. They host college swim teams to earn revenue. They offer private and group swim lessons to generate income. It is recognizable as a pool from the street. They host a myriad of community events. They heat the pool in the winter so that it is useful to a vast number of annual members. A former Olympian swimmer with a professional salary manages the pool. Sadly, our city manager has stated he wants our pool converted into a kiddie water park. As long as this is his goal, I fear that our pool is doomed. Thank you.
Rita Romano. Please, followed by Sally Welsh. Please, we have to put you on microphone. Please, thank you very much for coming.
I didn't write very much, but
Oh, I can read it for you if you prefer not to speak.
you could read it, and then I was just thinking that if you got those 800 people to write a $1,000 check, I'm ready to write a $1,000 check right now or more if it need be, to get the pool opened. I'm ready to pay to get the pool opened. So everything's about money, right? So you can read what I wrote.
One of the main reasons I moved here was the beautiful pool on the beach. I use the pool regularly and miss it sorely and pray for it to be reopened. Thank you.
What if we did a GoFundMe?
Thank you. Yeah, let's do it. I'm sorry. Sally Welsh, followed by Sam Goodstein.
Hello, Sally Welsh Chapella, 4096 Ruth Road. I do not live in Lake Worth, but I've been here 32 years. Worked many, many years for the city, off and on from the 80s into 2001. Into 2006, I was hired back, also with Jane, who was going to be here tonight, but something's come up. I was asked by Dawn to come and just speak about 2006 to 2011 because it was rocking and rolling in there. It was all that 2 full-time lifeguards could handle. Now, we were called lifeguards, but we did maintenance. We cleaned locker rooms. We did swimming pool. Swimming lessons, I was huge on everybody knows water exercise. Yes, we need a pool. I'm just asking. I am not partial where it is. The sooner the better. For 2 weeks, I've worked at the Fear for Drowning Prevention Coalition. Drownings still happen. Children are still born. They deserve to learn to swim. Okay, our Guatemalan children, it was nothing for us to have 110 and down to 60. The last summer that I taught them, I had 60 of them myself with volunteers. We can do this. You've got the energy, you've got the people. Find the way, find the place if that's not suitable. For those of you that don't know, the pool is totally gone. It's gone, it's gone. And I was very grateful that the city manager closed it while I was on family leave because 2 of my lifeguards could have been killed. That's where that is at. So understand that was a good move and that needed to be done. So, need a pool? Find a way. I'm here to help you. I am retired and having fun doing it. But water exercise is important, but more so drowning prevention. Thank you.
Sam Goodstein, followed by Susan, I'm sorry. Diane?
Diane?
My eyes are getting
Sam
bad.
Goodstein, 1717 12th Avenue South, Holt City, Land. You know, sometimes you guys have a tough job. I don't envy it. The nice thing is to be able to draw the direct line between one thing and another in your budget, to be able to say, this causes that. And with the pool, that doesn't exist. The pool is not, as we know, going to be a silo that makes money. It's not going to happen. The decision you have right now is there's a pot of gold you got, and there are things you can spend it on. And do you take a gamble? And it is a gamble on the pool, because who knows how it's going to work out. What we've seen is enthusiasm from the community. Can we build on that? I don't know. But it's a choice that is time sensitive because of the money available. Just like when the park was done, when we had the bond money to do the park, and Rene Varela was up here and he found the right firm and designed a great design, and now we have a beach that people come to. There are a lot of variables. To take a gamble on it is a choice you have to make right now. It's never going to make money on its own, but the beach is our crown jewel, and adding to it is, in one way or another, some of that tax money has to go to add to the crown jewel. Whether or not it's filling it with dirt, I would favor some really nice dirt if all we're going to do is fill it. Some quality, maybe we get some Georgia, that orange stuff. I love that orange stuff.
Clay.
But the choice is time sensitive. This is not something that can be kicked down the road. This is money is there right now, unless we want to do some kind of leveraged income bond that some people don't feel like was a good idea. But the pool was a part of our community for a long while. This is not about the history. This is about the future. This is about making and believing that one day we'll have a hotel and that we will be a tourist destination. Thank you very much.
Susan? To Don, okay. Wait, are there anybody else giving their minutes to Don? Okay, no, just that one, okay.
I just want to make a few more remarks. One of the things that you need to understand is the head of the Park and Recreation in Palm Beach County, when she was talking to me about Lake Lytle, suggested to me that we have a natural constituency in the winter in Lake Worth. They don't have a good constituency, and the amount of people that use the pool in the winter is way down because there's no tourists. She says, you have tourists, and I see the tourists every day, and the petitions weren't 800, they were 1,200, and the other 400 were tourists that signed it. Now you would say, well, they're just signing anything they see. No, they told me stories when they used to swim here. And I think that's really important to understand. And as far as, another thing that you need to understand is that all governance isn't, you can't put it all on a pad, and it's not all accounting. You have some obligation to do some creative stuff, and if you could set aside a little bit of money for this pool, we don't know how much it costs. We have had two pool contractors come in and give us what we call pre-bids, for lack of a better term, so that you would have a grasp of generally what it might be to do this. And we will have those for you because it may help you make a decision. So we want you to be aware of that. But the most important thing is that the reason we want it at the complex is because we found that when you put pools inland and you don't put them in this, when you put them in the city, the tourists won't use them, as opposed to being on the where they would be on the beach where they naturally go. And tourists, if they have 80 to 83 degree water, they'll be there, especially with a little mini bar and a little sandwich concessionaire, they will be there to enjoy the pool. So I wanted you to be aware of those things also, because we considered a pool somewhere other than the complex. And the numbers wouldn't work. But we feel the numbers will work here, and we have looked at the budgets of all these pools, and we realize that it will be a loss, but the losses appear to be manageable to those who would support an amenity like this. Those who are philosophically against this kind of thing, no losses would be manageable. But we know the losses are between 250 to 300,000 when we first start. And there's pools we've looked at. There are pools we've looked at where the losses are 100,000, 50,000, and some of them are expanding because the benefit of having a pool like this is fabulous. You can't quantify everything. You can't when you're in governance. Some things you got to keep the streets safe. You got to have good lighting, and those things are vitally important. But there can be room to be creative, and we have a pot of money here, and I think we should take that seriously. If I thought a pool would work somewhere else in this town, I wouldn't be here pitching what I'm saying. It's very clear to me that the pool at the beach will survive much better, and the losses, which I believe are manageable, we'll be able to control. But I don't feel that we can control the losses if we rely on a winner in another locale. That's what I want you to understand. So, thank you.
Michael Vivian, followed by Betty Resch.
Hi, I'm Michael Vivian from 2381 Sunset Drive, 106. I've been here for not quite a year.
Quiet in the chambers, please.
And during most of the time that I've been here, my mode of transportation was a bicycle. And I said, I don't, and then I got a car, and I said, $42 for a parking space. The point is, I'd like you to consider parking at this facility. Eventually, I bought a $42, $48 sticker to put on my windshield for the possibility to park in one of the available 400 spaces that are allowed for that sticker to be useful at. And I hope that you consider this if you're going to regenerate that beautiful pool that's there and looked like they were once wonderful facilities in 1923 when not everyone had a car. I guess they took their horses over there or the bus or something, but I'm going to buy a sticker for a car to park there this year. And over the years, if I'm lucky, the price will, or if I'm, the price of the sticker will go up for a lesser, for more people to choose to park in those 400 spaces. So I'll spend more for something of less value because I will have less of a chance to park if I'm still driving in those next years. And so I would hope that you consider the possibility of including, if you decide to regenerate this pool, to include more parking spaces or better public transit for getting it there, to coordinate these ideas into something that'll work better for more of us. Thank you. Oh, the place that I bought into has a pool. And there's a little sign that says, "There is no pee in our ool." So this probably won't happen there. You know, municipal pools are a chlorine tip, and nobody complains, really. It makes your hair whiter. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty Resch, followed by Richard Garcia.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Betty Resch, 207 South L Street, among other places. When I first went to the pool and was in the pool at Lake Worth in December of 1967, I couldn't believe that I was at the beach in a pool. I'm not an ocean swimmer. I don't like getting bitten. No, but I could go to the beach and I go to the pool. I think that there's a way to compromise to keep some sort of pool and to water the splashy fountains for the kids. Let's figure out a way to do both. People talk about putting the pool, is somewhere in the city. Well, if you put up the ball fields, it's farther away from the kids in the south end than it would be at the beach. So that's one thing. And then, yes, it's unique. People say, well, you can have it anyplace else financially. Let's honor our history and find a way to do it in the future. I think there's a way that we can do and market both of those things. We talk about the failure of the marketing. Yeah, it was a failure, and I think it was the will of the city to make that pool fail, because it was behind walls. There was not even a sign that said pool. If you didn't know it was there, you didn't know it was there. It was like this inside thing. Okay, it was not open. We used to have evening swims, and if you've never been in that pool when the sun's going down and the water turns golden, you haven't lived in Lake Worth. Right? There's lots of reasons to go in a pool. The parking needs, if we're going to do it, I think we do need some additional parking. We have I think we need a little deck at the bottom of the thing. So I would like to encourage you to look at this, pledge some money, to find a way. I think we can do both things. Not the pool that's up there, that's a dead and gone. But let's have swimmers, let's have kids, let's bring people back to that amazing, unique, one of the only few swimming pools at the beach in the state of Florida. And maybe if it got sunny, we could solar heat it. Thank you very much.
Richard Garcia.
Madam Mayor, Richard Garcia, 720 South Palm Way. Let's start here. Yes, we do need parking. I'm not going to talk about design elements at the pool, just about some of the finances of it. And not just the pool. We have enterprise areas that can use this penny sales tax money. There are two things that are failing. The beach complex in many ways other than just the pool, and the golf course. And I think those are two gems that we have. We're in a world-class location, and we need to have world-class facilities. And if we invest that money into those two things, if we build it, they will come. Let's talk about the pool. Let's get rid of the parking issue to begin with. You go into the pool, you're paying a membership, and then you have to pay $3 an hour to park with a 2-hour minimum, right? We have a contract with the county that says we can't offer anything to our citizens that we don't offer to the citizens of the county, right? That contract also says that we have to have a bus stop up there. So no matter how much Scotty says he doesn't want to have a bus stop for $250, we have to build it, right? So you buy an annual pool membership, right, for yourself or your family. You then get a pool parking pass. It's the same $40 plus tax we pay for the resident parking sticker, and you can park anywhere on the lot, offing the pool and parking in our lots. We're going to need more parking to do that, but that's the answer to that solution. We can build a world-class facility there and attract it, and the county will market it. They're building a new pool just west of town. There is no other pool on the beach. This is the perfect spot and the perfect opportunity for us to build that world-class location and have a world-class facility. And remember, those 300 people that were on the pool deck when we had the kayak race because we had blue-green algae in the lake and we couldn't swim, right? We couldn't do the race there. It was a fantastic opportunity. It was a great sense of community. Sure, we're going to need things like concessions and, tiki huts and drinks to have and all of that stuff. But water safety, red trunks, Sally, right? The red trunks, right? To teach kids how to swim, and that's the big thing that needs to be done there. But we have the opportunity now to take whatever it is. It's 509 plus permits, 600,000 to fix it. The pool can't be fixed. It's got to be torn out, ripped out, and start all over again. There you go.
Thank you. You know what, guys? I'm just going to, before we resume conversation, it's been a couple of hours and a half here. If we just take a quick bathroom break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
I'm so glad you said that, 'cause all this And we're live.
All right, everyone, you find your seats, please.
Are we live?
Everyone, find your seats, please.
What happened to the crowd?
Thank you so much. We shall. Is it my own still? Okay. We shall resume this city commission work session we've heard from the public, so with commissioner comments. Commissioner Hardy, I see your light is on.
My light?
Your light.
So the first thing I want to do is I want to read something that was sent to me by a resident in under 2 minutes. That's okay?
I'm ready when you are.
This is from Patricia Oliphant, 1724 11th Avenue North. Let's take some of the $14 million penny sales tax money and get rid of the derelict concrete monstrosity up at the beach. Let's turn it into a delightful grassy area. Then, besides having the luxury of some open green space on the ocean, a rarity, we can use the open space as a music venue on our bonfire nights, much like West Palm Beach does with their Clematis by Night event. They throw up a rented stand and have a ball. I believe our bonfire event could be as fun as Clematis by the Night if there were a real place to dance and lay out blankets on the grass, not sand. We all know it's not feasible to remodel a 50-year-old pool. You need to start anew. So let's demolish the embarrassing eyesore now and make it a usable open space while we deliberate the pool issue more fully. I don't have a firm opinion to have or not to have a city pool, but I do strongly believe this question should go to a public referendum. Then all voices are heard and not just the loudest voices. If we act in haste, we may be repenting at leisure. Sounds like a Benjamin Franklin quote. Yeah. Okay, so my actual comments. There were some questions. Why not move the pool to the mainland? I do think it would be great if we had a pool closer to the core of the city. The problem is there's no funding for a pool in the mainland, right? The best thing that ever happened to the pool was us increasing the parking rates, in my opinion, right? And that is the revenue source that allows us to cover losses there. The city is not in a position like other cities, like Wellington, like Palm Beach Gardens, in my opinion, to fund pool operations annually in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or north of $100,000 or north of $200,000 out of general fund money or any other fund that I'm aware of. And so really the beach fund is the only place where there's a revenue stream to cover losses there. Were the traffic numbers all that bad, right? So it's been said that, we don't have a lot of people going to the pool. But, with staff, I went to some pools last year. We got some of their traffic numbers and we got their hours of operation, right? So for example, in Lake Worth, we had 13,130 people come in the last year that we had the pool. In Wellington, they had about 20,000 that year. In Lake Lytle, they had about 27,000 that year. In North County, up there in Jupiter, but it's actually a county-operated pool, they had about 27,000 also. The thing is, for all those pools, their hours were significantly greater than ours, right? So their traffic was greater, but their hours were, in a lot of cases, almost twice ours. For example, we were open 26 hours a week. Wellington's is open 27 hours a week. They're open like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and then they have hours open on Sunday, 7 hours, right, from 12 p.m. to 7.
Can you repeat that? Because those numbers don't make sense.
Okay, so
You said we're 26, they're 27, but they're open all those hours.
No. Yeah. So, for example, take us. We had 13,000 people come to our pool that year that staff counted, but we were open 26 hours a week. Wellington had around 20,000 people coming to their pool, but they were open 67 hours a week.
That was you said 27.
I'm sorry, 27. Oh, my
That's
bad.
why I
My
was
bad.
asking
Okay,
you
yeah.
to
I'm sorry.
rephrase it.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
67 hours a week, right? And so on a number of people coming to the pool per hour basis, we're not doing too poorly. We're actually doing twice as good as Wellington, and we're doing not for example, we have about 9.7 people an hour coming by the pool. Wellington's 5.7, Lake Lytle 13.8, North County 14.1. So obviously we can improve traffic at the pool. The question is, can we improve traffic with the hours that we have, or would we have to expand hours to improve traffic at the pool? There are some drawbacks to expanding the hours, namely that it blows out the budget, right? So one of the reasons why our pool lost less money than all of these other pools, I mean, these pools here, just to look at Wellington's, for example, lost $388,000 in the year that we measured. Palm Beach Gardens pool, $470,000 in the year that they measured. Lake Lytle, $487,000. Palm Beach County, North County, $481,000. Our pool lost $166,000, right? And that's because of the hours, frankly, and the fact that our staff is a little underpaid relative to them. Our aquatics facility operator was tremendously underpaid relative to other aquatics facility operators. I was flabbergasted and embarrassed when I found that out. We've since improved some of that, but I don't know. Our traffic numbers, all things considered, were not that bad. And I think we had a lot to be proud of at that pool. The last thing is, I think that's all that I have. You know, I'm in favor of having a pool. I think the only possibility of us having a pool without it coming at a cost to other vital city services is having it at the beach where there is a stream of revenue there. I think, you know, here's the thing. 800 people signed a petition, okay, asking us to open a pool. And yeah, the last time, right.
1,200, but 4 of them didn't count because they were tourists.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I thought the 800 number was inclusive of tourists. Okay. So 800 non-tourists signed a petition. We are, to my knowledge, a representative democracy. And I do believe it's our responsibility to respond to what people have asked us to do. And they've been pretty clear with this stack of paper here in front of us that they want a pool, and it's our job to figure it out. And I recognize that there are some people who might not want a pool at the beach because it's been a challenge financially for us in the past. I think it's kind of our job to figure that out. I think we have to do it. It's what the people have clearly asked us to do. So those are my comments.
I think that, first of all, we've had some really good conversations on both sides of the topic, and I'm really honored to be here listening to you guys, because this is good conversation, constructive conversation. I've been pretty transparent about my feelings about a pool. I think that there's a good way for us to do this and to still, well, let's talk about the county for a second here. This is sort of something that hasn't been discussed. You know, when we first put together the beach project, the casino project, the beach project, we were talking about $5 million and $6 million and the county kicking in and what they did and what we had to give up for our parking requirements to have the county, participate in this project. And in fact, when I got here, we almost lost that money from the county because the commission was at the time, there was an argument going on about, well, we don't want them to be part of anything. We're not giving them any of our spaces. And they didn't come. We had to ask them not once but twice to please give us that money so we could pay for it because we were already over budget as it was. The reason I bring this up is to say that if we're giving this up and kind of going with the people that said it in the past, if we're giving this up and giving up more spaces and doing more things, the county constantly upgrades its facilities elsewhere. It upgrades its county pools. It upgrades. Where are we in this conversation? If we are in partnership with the county, why aren't they stepping up and helping us to improve, renovate, update this complex? It's time. Everything gets maintenance, right? Everything gets improvement. If we're willing to stand up and say, hey, we'll use X amount of money to get our pool open, where are you, county, in helping us to get some money to help us make this happen and bring this to fruition? And let's address some of the other problems that we've mentioned about. The parking situation at the pool, the lack of lifeguard offices and a station for them to operate, the lack of ballroom planning and people having an office or at least a room. When you mentioned the second story, Susan, of having a place for a bride's, what do they call it?
Bridal suite. A
bridal suite. If we're one of the top 5 booking destinations for weddings in there, and our brides can't even have a place to go to have a reception area. If we're going to talk about it, I mean, I like the idea of a humble pool, more amenities, addressing the problems that we have as a city, and creating that backup. I think that some of the plans that came through last time were generously over budgeted, but I think that if you took, you know, a one from column A and one from column B, and you put them all together to address some of the problems that the city has up there, we need to fix the fact that delivery trucks go up there and block off that area. You know what I mean? There should be a delivery drop off for the businesses that are up there. We need a place for leisure services to have a proper place for reception. We need a place for our lifeguards and staff to be able to have it. We need to upgrade those horrible bathrooms and showers and things of that nature. You know what I mean? We need, and it's not fair to say that we have to foot the bill for all of that. You know, it's not fair to say that. And I think that when I mentioned earlier about sometimes you got to be the loud one in the room, you know, we've had a conversation, city manager, you and I, with the county about a couple of things. Now let's talk about the bus. The bus is a conversation that has to come back here. Commissioner Amoroso's been working on it for the longest time. I've picked it up just because I sit on the TPA and that's where it's moved to, but that's there. We also, through the TPA, have gotten funding for trolleys. I want to revisit this discussion and talk about it. They've, you know, vowed to fund. When we mentioned about getting people to the beach, bringing back a trolley system that actually goes back and forth to the beach, getting the regular bus stop back at the beach. Some of these are old conversations, but they can be revisited now because we have enough critical mass to start. Yes, we do. We do. And not just from our city limits, but from outside our city limits. We're not a park for just us. We're the one who foots the bill. But a lot of the people that come to our park are not just us. They're coming from all over the county. So, I mean, I'm in support of rebuilding a pool, like I said, a modest pool with good amenities and solid structure for our staff to operate and to do the things that they need to do and to generate maybe some additional revenue if there's a downstairs part of an upstairs facility that could generate maybe some more storefront activity or whatever, putting in a parking, some additional parking. Maybe that's the portion we can get funded through the county since we're enhancing the amenity to do that. But I'm willing to fight for it, and I think that we have to start you know, I'd ask for, I understand the arguments on both sides, but I think we can support a pool back at that beach. But I don't think it should just be a pool. A pool standalone is not going to, we have to address some of the issues that we're facing up there to be viable in the future. And if we don't start budgeting maintenance, hey, listen, we opened that beach project when that pool was sitting there empty. You know what I mean? They never fixed the building. The things were falling down. The roof was falling in. Everything was caving in. You know, it's been ignored for a long time, more than a decade. So it's time to put up or shut up. And that's where I'm at with this one. Sorry, kids. Vice Mayor.
Okay, what she said, but I'm a money's person. I got a problem doing anything up there without long-term funding. It's been said, we did this or we didn't do this. We inherited this. We did not do this. We're trying to fix the problem. And again, it comes back to money. We have a penny sales tax, and I need a little clarification because we're here tonight. Our agenda item says, continue sales tax conversation from December 4th. We have no backup for sales tax. In my opinion, it became a pool meeting, which that's fine, we'll have a conversation, but we really need to have a pool conversation separate from this conversation that, in my opinion, it didn't happen because it's not transparent, there's no backup, and everybody else that has a line item that they'd like to see this penny sales tax spent on is not in this room tonight. One of my big priorities is additional parking, work-live spaces, and small retail in the downtown corridor, a continued parking study for the entire city and the people that live downtown, and then additional parking up at the beach. We know that we need parking up at the beach. That was on the list of possible penny sales tax. Also, there was additional infrastructure needs. There were other issues that we're not talking about tonight. So, you know, I love the conversation tonight. I embrace it, but I think we need to come back with a sales tax, penny sales tax, nothing but that. Get everybody in the room, get all the thoughts from staff. You know, staff, you're out there on the road. You see what you need. You see what's going on. I want a complete list of things, just like we do with CDGB funds. I want to see staff's thoughts. I want to see commission's thoughts, and all the thoughts on that sheet before we spend another penny of the sales tax. You know, I was out there with the Palm Beach County League, the Florida League of Cities, fighting for the penny sales tax, you know, trying to get it because it meant so much to us. So I want to make sure that, again, we spend this money wisely, but we also have to look, and I met with the group, and the one thing I told you, I've been very upfront, is every year we go into budget and we struggle to find new revenue sources. I need to make sure whatever we do that I can continue to pay for it. We've identified that it's an asset and it's not a money maker. No pool around makes money, but I need to make sure on behalf of all the taxpayers that that new line item, wherever it is, whether it's at the beach fund or it's in our general fund, that we can continue to pay for it. That we're not moving additional funds from our utilities to pay for additional line items in and around. And we can argue back and forth. Those are my thoughts, and I'd like to continue those conversations.
And just because you mentioned me in that, I agree with you 100%, and I think that we need to come back with more, or we can continue to talk now. I mean, that's what we're here for, a workshop. It didn't have to just be about the pool. That just happened to be one part of the conversation. I'd like to talk about a tie line.
Exactly.
I would like to talk about a tie line. I mean, whenever a storm hits, having another tie line into our electric utility will help us and prevent outages and make us one of the most consistent and reliable electric utility operations in the country.
But Madam Mayor, my concern is having more conversation tonight about any of the other issues. Those residents are not in the room because it was not advertised as such. It was just, it is a line item, but there is no backup. If somebody knew that we were talking about parking, the downtown merchants would have been here. If we were talking, if tie line was on there, it's not, there is nothing in the backup that addresses that.
Well, here's the deal. The reason there's nothing in the backup that addresses that is because we haven't, as a commission, highlighted items we would like to see discussed about. So let's say right now, let's prioritize right now. Items to discuss would be tie line.
But we also had our three priorities. We've already talked about the three priorities.
Madam Mayor,
hold on one second. So let's bring back those items that we've put together as our priorities as itemized in the backup so that we can make sure that we have proper conversations about all the items this commission has highlighted as its top 3 or top 5 priorities for the budget, and bring that back.
Madam Mayor, on this particular subject here, I don't want to get it, jump ahead of Herman. But on this particular subject here, we all outlined our priorities about a year ago. We were basically taking a poll and asked to rank our priorities. This already happened. We gave staff what our priorities were. We didn't get a plan back to execute on that, right? And the additional thing is on the agenda, it said, officially this is a sales tax conversation. I mean, I don't have a problem discussing any of those other items here. I mean, we can still discuss them. And the other thing is, I agree that you should spend penny sales tax money with a long-term plan, but we've already spent over $1 million of penny sales tax money acquiring properties in the downtown for parking, yet we have decided upon no long-term parking plan for the downtown yet.
It was number 3.
I'm sorry. Yet we've spent money on that particular issue, and the commissioner who raised that issue of not having a long-term plan, but yet we're talking about spending money,
Hold on one
had
second.
no
You
problem.
It was number 3 on
Point
our
of order.
had
Point
no-
of order. You got
Yeah, I
ready.
was
Hold
talking.
on one second. You were talking, but you asked to not go ahead of Commissioner Robinson just to make one point that you were going to make, and now you're having a debate back and forth with another commissioner. So you made your point on that. Let Commissioner Robinson go because it was his turn, and then I'll come back to you for a rebuttal. Okay?
Commissioner Maxwell had his light on before I did. Commissioner Maxwell.
You had your light on first.
No, I did not.
Well, then Vice Mayor Pro Tem, then you please go.
What you said and what Commissioner Amoroso said, they echo the same comments. With respect to the beach,
Why
or
not
the
comment?
beach pool, okay? I'll speak to that, and then I'll speak to the bigger issue of what we're supposed to be here tonight. I have said to anybody that I've had a conversation with, especially Mr. Rosenshine and others, that if the pool was losing oodles of money and it was packed every day, it's an entirely different conversation we're having here tonight. An entirely different conversation, because it's being utilized and people are benefiting and they really embrace the amenity. The reality of it is, we don't embrace that amenity. Okay? Our beach, as the mayor started to point out earlier, in its entirety, is and has always been a regional beach. And every time there's an opportunity to expend capital funds on that beach, it's little old Lake Worth that has to figure out how to come up with the money to put the capital improvements in there for a regional beach, of which the majority of people that utilize the regional beach are from outside our city. They drive in from Green Acres, they drive in from West Palm Beach, they drive in from Lantana, they drive into Lake Worth. We're their playground. We're putting out all these amenities, our parks, you know, all the things that we have. Well, we've got some really cool amenities in this town, but guess what? Folks from outside of the city of Lake Worth are the ones that are, as the majority of users, are the ones that are using those resources. So I'll say it again. If that beach was packed and they were standing on line to get in there every day and we were losing a few $100,000 a year, I'd say, well, it's a different conversation and there's other ways to look at it. Having said that, Commissioner Hardy earlier mentioned, and I appreciate those numbers. I didn't jot down where the other numbers, the 20,000, the 27,000, the 27,000 users were coming from, but I did take note of our usage. And he noted 13,100 people visited our pool. That is an average of 35.89 people a day, less than 36 people per day. If you average 13,100 people, users, if you will, by 365 days, that averages out to 35.
That's
Okay, all right. Well, you want to split? You all want to split hairs? Then we'll spend all night talking about the pool.
I'd
All right.
rather not.
You don't need to threaten anyone.
I'm not. Madam Mayor, that wasn't a threat.
Okay.
Okay. Now, some of the arguments have been made for us to invest millions of dollars, which is ultimately what we're going to have to do, because many of the very people that support this concept have said, you know, you basically got to start all over again. If what you say is true, as far as the marketing aspect of it and some of the things people didn't know it was there, I don't know how you could possibly miss it. It said municipal swimming pool or municipal pool on the outside of there, and you drive by it every day, you walk by it every day. I can't imagine how the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of people that have gone past that building over the years didn't know it was a swimming pool. But I'll give you that. So if you're absolutely correct that those were deficiencies, and we fix those deficiencies, that means we're going to get more users on the beach or on the pool, which means they're going to come to the beach. We already have a pretty much a parking issue in many respects on the beach. So if what you say is true, we're going to have a greater parking issue on the beach, which means we're going to have to find more parking. So we're going to have to rebuild a pool or remodel a pool or do something with the pool, and now we're going to have to add parking to take care of these new users, which means there's an additional capital cost. It's not as simple as repairing the swimming pool and marketing it. There are so many other things that are going to come about as a result of trying to put it back together. Okay? So, I'm sorry, what's the answer? The answer is good fiscal responsibility. The answer is Lake Lytle, which is just right outside the city here, where they get 27,000 users a year.
Yes.
27, but they're the county. They can afford to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They have, what's the county budget? A couple of $1 billion?
And they get our impact fees.
They get our impact fees. They can afford to lose a couple of $100,000 a year. We don't have that luxury. And it's not dissimilar from the conversation we had about the school board earlier. This town, this city, this community for generations has been abused, in my humble opinion, overall, and neglected by our neighbors and our county government in terms of support and resources afforded to us to maintain our infrastructure and to make our community better than what it is as we see it today. And here we are in 2019, cleaning up the mess that was left before us. And yes, it touches the hearts of many people. Education's a very, very emotional issue. For the folks that use the beach, that's a very emotional issue. But it doesn't change the fact that when you stack us up as a municipality, we don't square up against the county and their resources, or some of the other communities and their resources. You know, we don't have the money that a Jupiter has. Was Jupiter one of the pools that you, no?
No, there's a pool in Jupiter that's coming
Okay.
up.
So, you know, I wish we were in a different financial place, but we're not. And as far as the beach complex is concerned, you know, I'll say it again. You know, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to be confused with facts. You know, we went ahead with the redevelopment of the rebuilding of that casino building, and some people were so passionate about it, they wouldn't listen to reason. And when it was pointed out to them that there was going to be a financial debacle, they didn't care. Or if they did care, they tried to manipulate the numbers to make it look like something it wasn't. But you know what? That's exactly what happened. We cannot continue to operate like that. And that's all I have to say about that. So let's get back to the issue of this meeting. City Manager, I'm too concerned that we didn't have some sort of an inventory, if you will, of our previous conversations or priorities for us to talk to this evening. And as Commissioner Amoroso aptly said, you know, the folks that are passionate about parking, or they're passionate about this or passionate about that, they're not here, okay? There was a well-orchestrated, and I applaud Mr. Rosenstein and your group for all the work that you did in putting this together. I applaud you for, you know, rallying the troops and having them coming out en masse tonight. Okay, but our primary discussion tonight has been the pool, and that's not the only thing that we have to concern ourselves with here in the city of Lake Worth with respect to how we're going to spend the sales tax money. That's all I have to say, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam
City
Mayor.
Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Where do I start?
From the beginning?
In the beginning. First off, just very clearly, and there seems to be some confusion, staff has some kind of opinion in the outcomes of these decisions. That's not our job. We truly don't. And those of you who work with us, you know, we bat ideas back and around, but at the end of the day, we're looking for direction from this board to go forward. I don't know if I've ever used this analogy. We're kind of like the genie in the bottle. Just rub the bottle, tell us what you want, and we'll get this from A to B. This particular workshop, honestly, in my professional opinion, was ill-advised. But we get directed to do things at commission meetings, and when that comes up and people go, hey, let's have a workshop, it's kind of like, hey, let's have a party. It's kind of the Little Rascals. You know, we'll put on a show and sell tickets. It's not good to go into these things without completely having.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Excuse me, he made a point of order. He's a
What-
sitting
what-
commissioner.
what-
Do I have a second on the point of order?
When have we asked for a second
I-
on a point of order this evening?
I'm asking
I was
for
just
one.
point of ordered.
I'm
Was there a
just-
second asked for that point of order?
You were just point of order.
Literally a few minutes ago, when I was discussing my issue, someone said point of order.
It was point of information.
Point of information.
No.
Can I finish my, and so we can get on with this meeting?
Okay.
I just, let me finish, please. And I apologize if I'm a little testy about this, but we sit through these things and everybody turns to staff and says, well, you know, this is an ill-prepared workshop. You have already on your collective plates a lot of data that we spent a tremendous amount of time and expenses following direction we received to move forward to resolve a couple of key issues. We have spent and invested a lot of time and money in parking downtown, which has been a collective, hey, let's move forward with this. This is a good idea. We've spent almost $2.4 million on properties. That's given us a lot of flexibility in land banking and discussions on parking solutions. And you have a parking study in hand that we spent $67,000 for that has the data that you need to move forward with further discussions and directions for staff, which we need to get from you guys in a constructive way. We spent good money at your direction on license plate readers, and I can tell you, not a lot of the people in the public maybe know that they're up there, but we're catching people. It's doing the job. It was a phenomenal investment. That was $249,000. I'm sorry. That was the cameras, and then we had the installation. So it was 300 and change. We did infrastructure for the Park of Commerce, which is a project that's been ongoing. And because of the good work that y'all have done working with the TPA, Mayor, and those who have worked to get that money, we got money moved up in the state budget. which all of a sudden we had to match. It was unanticipated, but it was an infrastructure commitment. And this commission has consistently focused on those fundamentals of fixing infrastructure because that's the building blocks of the city, and kudos. But that was $2.9 million. You have been making good decisions along to stage yourself. And then the beach. And the beach is a collection of decisions. We decided that it was best to move forward with trying to get empirical data, not empirical data, I think it was used earlier, how people kind of want that park to look and function. We spent a lot of time last year with consultants, CPZ, to bring forward a series of options that was a professional estimation of what they heard through public workshops and in meeting with y'all and time spent to lay out a variety, a buffet of options that you currently have. I don't know that you like the options. I know that you might not trust the professional opinion in these estimations because the numbers are flipping high to include all the things that you may or may not want to be in there. But that's the data that we generated with competent professional help to give you a starting point to consider what you can and cannot do, addressing parking, traffic, the deficiencies in the casino building that need to be addressed, the garbage, the staging for logistics at the casino businesses, the pool options of some sort on a size, and I forgot something else. But that's all in that study. Traffic. Hell, it's got a hotel in one of them. And what I would really prefer is, before we come to next workshop discussion, or ask for one, that we go back through those plans and then you can give us direction, because we're ready to go on a design if that's indeed your true wishes. We can ink a contract, an addendum to our contract with CPZ, and get us to a point where you've got a design to consider with better and more accurate figures on what it would cost. And if you want to throw in some other pieces and components, that can happen as well. As government, we have to follow a professional process. We have to go through, and you know this better than anybody, all these steps and procedures because we have to be objective. And if we don't, we go to jail because we can't make deals with people and handshakes. We can't mess up bid processes. There's a lot of things happening at the pool right now that people are doing that they may be unintentionally poisoning the well for this process for certain people who are in those businesses, and inadvertently, because they're second guessing what you commissioned as a study. Now, I've had problems with that, and that's turned out to be, oh, Mike's against the pool. That's not. I really want to get y'all where you need to go, but we need to digest the information that's already been created and then provide us direction in a workshop format where all this is laid out appropriately. But it's something that takes time, and it's a process that we have to go through thoughtfully and respectfully, because you can't get this wrong. We did it wrong once before when we did the casino. And I don't mean wrong in that it's a bad place. Everybody loves it. But I think if this group in charge now was in charge back when it was being designed, you would have had problem with, don't spend more than $6 million, and, oh, we better cut the pilings out from under it. Oh my gosh, there's no place for this. And they kept value engineering it down to fit in a box. And now you're having to come back and clean up in what's effectively a phase 2 to finish a project that you didn't start, but you've gotten beat up on. And you're getting beat up on the pool because you inherited it. But you're this close to coming to some kind of consensus on what you can afford or may want to do. But you've got the data. So let's focus on what's on our plate, please, is my opinion to you. And I think you've got enough to chew on. My thoughts.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
I have 2 lights on. I offered it to you before the lights went on, and you said no, and you didn't put your light on.
Something needs to be addressed immediately.
I'm going to go with protocol here. I gave you the chance. I gave you the chance before their lights were on. I said, would you like to go?
Well, no,
and what? And you said no.
I thought you said, would you like to go take a step outside? Were you talking about when he was talking?
I said, would you like to go and rebut?
Oh, no, I would, yes, I would like to. My apologies. I would like to, and it's not a rebuttal per se, but
Well, I was giving you the opportunity.
I did
and
not
you
know
said-
that was what I thought you were asking if I
No.
wanted to leave the room, frankly.
No, I wouldn't ask you to leave the room.
Okay, no,
Unless you deserved it, and you didn't deserve it, meaning by the rules. Commissioner Robinson?
I'm not going to make a speech. I do like workshops. They're necessary. We are not ill-prepared. We came to talk about the penny sales tax. We also talked about education. I'm very proud of Lake Worth tonight, that we've had conversations on very important topics. Mistakes are expensive at the beach. We've had a failed business plan that's been mentioned from 5 years ago. Nothing's been done. We now have a penny sales tax, and we have what, $14 million left? Is that, all right, so I'd like to.
We could borrow that, which is 85% of what's.
Do we have $14 million? Okay. So I have 4 topics down, and none of this stuff requires a speech. We've all stated the obvious, I think. What I want to talk about at the beach is, and I am a proponent and will be very emphatic that we have a pool, a family-friendly pool up there that's going to be an attraction to tourists and something that our community is going to be proud of. We have to address the traffic improvements that are going to make it much more pleasant and efficient, which is going to involve the service area. And we don't even have an agent to market the second floor. So I would hope that at least we can agree to hire, get a contract to market the second floor. Those are 4 things that if we decide to spend the penny sales tax on, the 4 things I want to focus on the penny sales tax are roads and our downtown, which is going to be including parking, and most importantly, our casino park. We recognize this as a premier county park that is in our responsibility. So I want to spend $5 million on the roads to finish that. I want to spend $5 million on improvements of parking downtown, which we've already spent 2.5. And that gives us $10 million out of the $20 million that we've are working with. So 10 million, if we can put that $10 million into the 4 things of the pool, the traffic, the second floor, and the service area, that should take care of the workshop tonight. If we can all agree on those things.
Vice Mayor?
Okay, I kind of did the same. So I have a priority list. Top of my priority list is downtown parking, additional small retail, livable workspace. I've continuously said we are a seasonal downtown. By creating work, live space, small retail, you can change that from a seasonal downtown. It helps all your downtown merchants. It helps your city all year long. My second on the list would be a tide line. We have issues that we're going to have to come back and deal with, utility issues. We've started fixing our roads. Our utilities are just as old, and those are big costs. We're going to have to start looking for money for those. That's second on my list. Something at the beach needs to be done. But throwing money at it, I can give you $150 million. What can you do with it? I can give you $5 million. What can you do with it? There's certain things you can do with $5 million, certain things you can do with $150 million. Again, numbers. Fourth on my list is parks. Everybody in this city wants more parks, but we need an overall master plan. The mayor has mentioned over and over for parks before we start doing it. But again, any one of these line items have a continuous but needed budget. You know, Commissioner Hardy said earlier, the best place for a pool is on the beach. I personally think the best place for a pool is in the neighborhoods where the children are. But again, how do you pay for it? I come back to, everybody wants it, but how do you pay for it? Fifth on my list is Park of Commerce. We've done great. We finally got the governor not to veto our money. We've got some grants, but there's still needs in the Park of Commerce that we're going to have to continuously circle around. Roads is last on my list because thankfully the residents voted in a $42 million bond. We're going to come in under budget. We don't know what that is yet, but let's finish that project and see what those numbers look like and then start. We put maintenance in, continuing, but all of these have working pieces. It's a continuing conversation. But again, right now we have $14 million. Let's go down the list. Let's figure out how we can best spend our money.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah. So, our city manager is a wonderful, wonderful guy. He has been a wonderful, wonderful city manager. Okay. But Commissioner
Quiet in the
Robinson,
chambers, please.
no,
I said quiet in the chambers.
Commissioner Robinson,
Not so wonderful.
no, Commissioner Robinson brought this item before this body and before the public, and I do not appreciate that exercise being described as something out of Little Rascals and let's get together and have a party and throw a show. That's not what this is. This is a man who has a priority, who simply wanted to put something on the agenda and who didn't get any help or support from staff when he did that. And so the idea, and the idea, frankly, that his efforts would be diminished or said in public, not in private, but in public, as this is ill-advised, in my opinion, is not appropriate. Now, I preface that, and I will end that by saying, Mr. Bornstein, you are a wonderful man. You are a wonderful city manager. That particular bit of commentary I did not appreciate, because he's the elected representative of the people in this city, and the people have spoken clearly. They've spoken very clearly here this evening, and he is simply trying to further their interests. And I don't appreciate that effort being diminished, which is, there's no other way to interpret that other than as a diminishing remark. So that doesn't sit well with me. Now, my priorities are as follows: roads, the beach, pool loading area, pedestrian front. And as far as a tie line goes, the electric utility has revenue. Debt is coming off the electric utility over the next several years. It has the ability to finance a second tie line, if not with additional debt capacity that's gained when it comes off. This is not a palatable way to do it, but there are transmission rate adders that can be used to finance it. There are a number of ways to finance a tie line with issues that are endemic to the electric utility. I don't think that that's the best use of this money. This is obviously and has been and always has been a hot button issue, precisely because previous commissions, before anyone on here was sitting on this dais, made extraordinarily poor decisions, right? Extraordinarily poor decisions, right? And three people who are up here had to fix, it's like you were given a plane, okay, and the plane was going down, and somebody shoved you into the cockpit, and you got the plane not to crash, but we're still trying to climb and get at altitude, right? With duct tape and all sorts of things, okay? With duct tape and all sorts of things, but that's where we are, and I don't think that we should give up on that effort. There's a better version of that beach that we can deliver to our residents, and I think we have to deliver it to our residents. The residents have asked for it to be delivered to them. Clearly. So also I would like to see that poll that we conducted in that workshop, because there was a ranking, okay? There was a ranking, and that needs to be a part of the record here. We've already given our opinions, our priorities. I don't know why we're doing it a second time. Sometime in between the first time and today, there should have been plans presented to us to execute on the priorities we already communicated. And there has not been.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I appreciate Commissioner Hardy's comments about the city manager's comments that he felt were directed towards one of our commissioners. I didn't take it that way. I think,
Neither did I.
I think that it was the city manager, and I just, for what it's worth, I think he was simply trying to point out that we have had the time and opportunity to address specific needs related to infrastructure that could be related to sales tax money. We've invested money in studies. Those studies have been presented. I think what he was really trying to say at the end of the day is, you know, there are some real significant large ticket items that need to be considered and prioritized. And I didn't take his comments to be, you know, directed towards anybody in particular. So but I do appreciate you sticking up for one of your fellow commissioners. As far as my priorities are concerned, and again, the interesting thing about this exercise is that, you know, since we started these studies and since we've had previous discussions about our priorities, things have changed. We've had new information available to us about certain projects or whatever, or potential projects. So my priorities are going to be as follow. They may not necessarily be in the same order, but maybe I've expressed them in the past, but here goes. Number one, roads. For 20 years, I've been preaching about roads in this city, and I really thank the citizens of Lake Worth. It took us a couple bites at the apple, but we finally got some bond money, and we're doing a much better job with our roads. But I still think we got a golden opportunity with the half penny sales tax to shore up some of those lower PCIs that didn't quite make the cut for the $40 million. Second, of course, has got to be parking. We must address the downtown parking situation. Okay, there's no Band-Aid, there's no quick fix for this. And we realize that, you know, there are folks that are looking and to come in and maybe, you know, do something with the Gulfstream. It's inevitable that we're going to have a severe parking problem greater than what we experience right now if we do not act now to prepare for the future. Number three, the tie line, the electrical tie line is very, very important. As a remarkable job as our utilities has done over the years, both in terms of our ability to reduce the cost of service to our residents, our customers, and the efforts that we're currently engaged in with hardening the system. You know, we have to be honest, it's an older system and things are going to happen. We need another tie line as a backup. Number four, Park of Commerce does remarkable things over there. And while I'll take a moment here to recognize former Commissioner Joe Egley, who's sitting in the back of the room. This was his priority some 20 plus years ago that he could never seem to get any traction on. He got a little bit of a traction before he left the commission, and I'm happy to say that, you know, it's taken us all this time, but we're finally you know, creating something out there that I hope is going to be somewhat of what you had a vision of 20 some years ago. So whatever deficiencies, if any, or any things that we need to do to shore up and finish up the Park of Commerce, I think needs to be a priority. Because let's face it, as we talk about some of the projects, potential projects that are coming to the city, more specifically, the discussion about the Gulfstream current and its ability to maybe generate electricity and what that means to us potentially as a community, the Park of Commerce is going to be critical for us in terms of having the capacity to actually house and facilitate new businesses coming in from wherever they're coming in from around the world. They need to have a place to set up shop. So the Park of Commerce is critical to our economy. Number five, something we haven't talked a great deal about, but it has been mentioned over time, and that's the golf course. The golf course, you want to talk about amenities, and you want to talk about history, you want to talk about nostalgia. Well, the golf course needs a lot of work with the issue of sea level rise facing us very strongly. So that's going to require a significant amount of money to redo that golf course to get it to the position to where it is not literally falling into the drink. Number six, and this is something I don't think anybody has discussed. I know I've mentioned it from time to time over the years, but you know, we talk about availability of amenities and services to our children and our residents. We have a lot of things down in my district. I'm very thankful in my district in the southern end of town. We have a basketball court and a little community center, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of folks from the northern part of the city don't go there because of the distance, because of where it's located. I think we need to strongly, seriously consider some sort of a community center to be placed somewhere in the central western part of our community or towards the upper end of the city, so we have something for the children in the northern part of the city. And the last issue is the beach, and not because I mean that it's last, but I think that if we're going to talk about doing something at the beach as it relates to fixing the mistakes or the opportunities that exist as a result of the $6 million building and all that went with that, then that moves up a little bit on my priority list. If we're talking about that alone, if we're talking about dealing something with the pool specifically and only about the pool, then of course it'll be at the bottom of my list for all the reasons that I've shared tonight and in the past. I agree that something needs to be done up there. We need to fix, as the city manager said, phase 2, if you will, of that beach and put that issue to rest. I just don't know how much money that I'm willing to invest in bringing back a pool that, and I think the word gamble was used by somebody this evening, that could potentially be a gamble for us. And if somebody could convince me that we could redo something at the pool in whatever image it was to be redone and people would be lined out the door, I'd be the first one to champion that. But I don't see that as being the case when the numbers around the county don't speak to people lining up and at the door to get into a swimming facility. So those are my priorities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Thank you, Commissioner Maxwell, for listing out 8 priorities. You know, that's what we're here for. I'm sorry that the beach is the last one, and then, but other than that, it is, you know, workshops probably aren't your favorite thing to do, but it's on us to give direction to you, and that's why we're here, because I'm trying to. I want you to have some direction, and you know, the gamble that was mentioned is an investment. Every investment is a gamble, and you know, we need to invest in our community with roads, downtown parking, and our casino park. That's why I'm asking on the next commission meeting agenda that we put $10 million of this penny sales tax as a, you know, I hate to say a discussion item, but if we could come to an agreement on spending, I would like to spend $10 million on the casino park. And the other item I would like to talk about at our next city commission meeting is a conversation of the expectation of what you have of us and what we have of you. It's breaking down, and it's non-productive, or it is productive, but it can be much better if we understand that you need direction, and if you understand, if we understand what you expect from us. So you know, we are taking, you know, steps towards making Lake Worth a better place. And I'm saying that I'm proud of Lake Worth and its citizens and the progress that we're making up here. And staff, leisure services, parks, is fantastic. So, you know, I'm good with, we spent roads, $5 million, downtown parking and downtown improvements, $5 million, and $10 million to the casino park.
That's 20.
Yeah.
We have 14
Well,
left.
we've already spent 2.5.
We've spent 15 million up there already.
Yeah, and we've spent 6. So, we can leverage what we've got left.
85%.
We can leverage to the max, and then we'll have to bear down on the priorities of how to spend all of it, you know. But let's move forward. We've had this money gift inheritance for what, 6 months, and we're spending it in $50,000 chunks here and there, sometimes. And the cookie jar is going to be gone, and we're going to have a few things to look at, but I just think we need to pick up the pace on major difficult decisions. I'm looking forward to another workshop, but I'm also looking forward to stating our priorities, which we did, and let's come to some decisions.
Okay, I have a question for you. Well, first of all, again, in reference to the agenda, as I mentioned, education issues, we got off into, we can't have, for workshop formats, we can't have education issues, which means we can basically talk about anything or any, whatever for education issues. Sales tax conversation, that should have been some bullet points of the top 3 or the top 5 items that we chose from the last time around, so that we could have succinctly talked about that and why they were our priorities, not just one topic. But although we did finally get to have a good conversation about the beach casino. The beach project, the pool project, is part of our parks. You know, when we talk about this, our parks master plan that I've been talking about for a long time, I sound like a robot saying it over and over again, but the beach is, and the pool is part of our parks. So, you know, we're talking about upgrading and updoing and whatever else, it's part of our parks. And let's remember that. I've obviously spoken to what I think is important. The road projects, you know that, we're coming ahead, on budget and on time, which is really unheard of in government. So I'm very proud of that. But what we're finding though is we're getting a lot of backlash in the communities because one street's done and looks beautiful, and then the next street isn't part of it and it looks like garbage. And then the next street's done and it looks beautiful, and another street's done, and people are not feeling the love on their street because it was in better condition than that. And we know that there's going to be some point in which there's going to be some leftover money if we're so ahead of budget, that I would like to have a serious discussion about that when we get to that point, about where to go. I don't want to commit any money yet until we know exactly what we've got left over from that plan, so that we can utilize those funds in the best way possible. But I also want us to think about our maintenance plan. And I mentioned this too, like a repeat record, but we have not allotted enough money into our maintenance plan for roadways. And we, even though we brought that to everyone's attention, we still didn't put enough money into that budgetary item so that when these roads are fixed, we are ready to maintain them so we never have that problem again. And I don't just want to be a temporary fix. I want to be a permanent fix, and I want us to be a machine that constantly fixes and creates a budget for it. I also don't want to create any parks unless we have the money to maintain them. Getting that, okay? So when we talk about things from a green space, but I think there's a lot of opportunity at the beach that we're missing out on. And I think that that's something that, you can say if you build it, they will come, and I might be pie in the sky, and maybe these 800 people are. But you know what? I want to applaud that woman who came up here and said, I'm one of those 800 people, and I'll write you a check for $1,000 right now. And if everybody on that list, even if they couldn't afford $1,000, could go on GoFundMe and raise $1,000 to each one of those 800 people or those 1,200 people, really? Think about how much money we would have towards that project. Just saying. We also should start to have a grown-up conversation about naming rights. There's things of that nature. Say those 800 people or those 1,200 people that put their $1,000 in to fix the pool, there's a brick with their name on it, or a wall with their name on it, or whatever. There's other ways. Every mayor's conference I go to, and I shudder to use the word public-private partnership without somebody showing up with a red sign on my lawn. But we have to have a conversation about what it means to retain ownership of our city property and still have people invest in them or help to operate them to offset the costs. You know what? We're a great city and we have great people, but we're not meant to be in every line of business when we don't know what the hell we're doing. Pardon my French. So these are some grown-up conversations that we can have about funding options. There are very small cities across the country that are loaded because they have people and they have philanthropists and donors, and people came to me just a few years back about the pool and says, I want to put my name on that pool and I'll give you $500,000 to do it. They don't want anything. They don't want anything back other than their name up on a plaque. Is that something we want to do? If you don't like that, then okay, we can talk about that. But let's have an adult conversation about doing some of these things and looking outside of it. I also want to have a serious conversation with the county. We have to get with them and talk to them and to put this conversation to the proper perspective that they are a partner with us in that casino project. And let's see what we can do. But remember when we talked earlier about if we stay quiet, we're not going to get anything done. the greatest thing that I'm so glad to see is all the people that signed this and came together for something that important. As Commissioner Robinson said, I'm proud of you for doing all that and doing all that groundwork on it. But you know what? It ain't gonna be that easy. We can just go, and it's done. But with your support now, maybe we can lobby the county. Maybe we can go, we can do some things together in the immediate that helps us put a realistic, thing on that number. Now, city manager, if we were to discuss, when we bring this back up next time, moving forward with, as Commissioner Robinson mentioned, about doing something at the casino in reference to a pool, whatnot, and having those discussions, as part of that discussion, could we discuss what the next step would be in regards to actually creating a plan to figure out what the real costs of doing what everybody's been talking about, a more scaled down version, and getting just what we need to fix the operations and functions that are not working there, and increase the amenity in some way, shape, or form. I think that the previous, what was it, CNZ? CBZ? They did a great job of putting together ideas, and I think that there was a way that we could kind of scale it back and do. But I'd like to bring that, if we're going to bring this back at some point, I'd like to bring those plans back. And,
Okay, that's very good direction, Madam Mayor. Yes, absolutely.
all right, well then, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I just say one thing before my light was on? Just,
I'm sorry, I didn't see your light. Your light is flailing.
I know, I think you took my batteries. Commissioner Robinson, I apologize if I said anything. Well, no. I respect you highly, and if any of my comments were offensive in any way, you've earned your stripes. Commissioner Hardy, you were right for calling me out. I'm sorry if I got testy. That's not my intent. I respect all of you greatly, and this body, and this city, and the citizens. I don't want to ever be perceived as letting my emotions get the better of me and my frustrations and trying to get. I like workshops when they're productive, and I get direction, and that's some direction that is very useful. We can bring all that back and schedule a workshop. And if there's anything else in our one-on-one meetings, we have some conversations, but I don't want to just on the fly say, let's have a workshop, and we don't really know where you're going, because this information is we're ready to pull the trigger on going to the next steps. We'll do whatever you ask us.
All right, now go to your room. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna step outside.
Commissioner Hardy, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second. A second. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? No, I don't want to go home. Thank you all.
Melissa?